Hello everybody and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candace Marie. Thank you for joining me. We are doing our live weekly show a little bit mid-week, kind of getting back into the old flow of things. Had to squeeze it in before this weekend so that way we can get all of my subscribers, my memberships, and if you guys would like to get your readings. Those of you guys who are new to my channel, please hit the bell button below so you can get alerts as to when we do live readings on this channel. I alternate every other week. One week we do tarot, one week we do astrology. This week we are doing astrology. So if you are a level 3 member, if you have not gotten your question for the month of December, now is the time to get it in because this is going to be the last live reading segment I'm going to do for December. That's the benefit of being on my memberships. If you are level 3, you're going to be able to get one question from me once a month, whether it's a 3-card tarot reading or a question about your astrology. So for me to be able to answer questions about your astrology this evening, I'm going to need a couple bits and pieces of information from you guys. So just a heads up, I will be casting the charts live. You will be able to see this on the split screen in just a second. We are going to need your first name, the date of birth, including the year, the city, and the exact time. Now, if you don't have the time information, do check a birth certificate. Usually you can find that stuff there, depending on where you were born. Hi, everybody in the chat. Nice to see everybody. Thank you guys for joining me. Nice to see you, SR, Toddman, Lady Snake Priestess. Hello. I saw your comment on my video. I would imagine things are pretty colorful in your life with all that Aries in your chart. So if you have questions and if you would like to get a reading and get into the queue, there's a QR code right over here. You can scan that if you are on a laptop or if you're on a tablet, or you can go into the pinned comment or even just down below. There is a PayPal link. It's $40 for one question, whether that's transits or a natal aspect, $65 for Synastry or questions about relationships. And I'm stoked to kind of be back and have a little bit of time with you guys. Give a shout out to all of my awesome members, you know, whether you're a level 2 or you're a level 3. We got a bunch of people now: Paula, Catherine Murray, Hera, Nancy, Sam Norton, Jen Rich, Phoenix, Jessica Martinez, Angeli, Emma, Susan Wexler. You guys are the best. Thank you so much. And if any of my level 3 people are here, let me know. I know we got a couple people left that we can chat with for the month. Hi, Tiara, D Cosmic. What's going on, everybody? Eliz. All right. So how are you guys doing? How are the transits going for you? How's the Venus retrograde going for you? Today's a very good day to get a reading. I don't know if you guys are aware of what's going on in the cosmos, but Mercury just entered into shadow. So it's in the shadow period right now in Capricorn. It will retrograde from Aquarius back through these degrees actually in January. We also have Venus, which is in the mix. So we've got Venus retrograde, conjunct Mercury, and conjunct Pluto. So I'm imagining, just based off of some of the questions I've had with clients over the last week or two, lots of questions about relationships. Is it going to work? Are they cheating? Are we compatible? Is this going to work itself out? Questions also relating to money, finances, resources, how people are spending money, saving money, investments even. And last but not least, Capricorn's all about work, our career, our purpose, what we're doing out in the world. So there can definitely be some much more intense topics coming up during these types of transits. And it's interesting, I was listening to just a bunch of different people over the last couple days on YouTube, and everybody seems to have the same perspective of this Mercury-Pluto-Venus conjunction, that it's just a profound kind of like shift in our thoughts or in our consciousness revolving around Pluto and Venus topics. So some intense conversations and even advice can come up during these transits. Kind of the sweet spot for where this is getting hit the hardest are going to be cardinal placements, anywhere from, I would say, about 22 to maybe about 26, 27 degrees of the cardinal signs. So that would be Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising. Equally, if you have any personal placements in Capricorn within these degrees, there's some real profound shifts happening right now. So let me know how it's happening for you guys, what's going on. I know that we had some people who are asking questions who are in the queue about a reading. So I'm seeing who that was. Looks like we had some questions up at the top. I'm trying to see it now. For Miss Romero, she had a question about her son. Are you still here? And if you are, let me know. Because once we have payments in the queue, then we can pull those up. And like I said, once again, the link is below or it's in the chat. Pluto is kicking my ass. Yeah, it's been an intense one. I was not looking forward to the transits of the end of December for the last couple months. I knew it was going to be a bit of a doozy. So let me check my list here and see if we have anybody from level 3. And those of you guys who are not aware, also just some new content that I put out on the channel. I put out just a follow-up for Jupiter's ingress back into Pisces. So I actually put that out last night. It's a 2-hour video that I talk about all of the aspects and what's going on with Jupiter and Neptune and their conjunction, what I am predicting is going to happen, and I go into how it's going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. Also on the Midheaven podcast, which we put out this week, Mike and I did a 2-series episode, so it's going to be 2 parts on the most important transits of 2022. You do not want to miss that. So the first one's already out, and us talking about the continuation of like the Saturn-Uranus squares, our interpretation of, you know, the nodal changes and the eclipses and what that may bring, the retrogrades, all of it. So the first half of it is already out. 24-degree Cancer moon, that is definitely, that's definitely experiencing a very intense series of oppositions. So yeah, you want to pay attention to everything that's pretty much going on from probably the last 2 weeks up until about mid-January, so you can see that play out. Just word to the wise, the full moon that's happening, I think it's around the 17th in January, is going to be, I think, 26, 27 degrees of Cancer. So you got a pretty intense full moon involving a Pluto opposition that's going to be taking place next month. So that's definitely something to look at. That's a lunar return to look at as well, because that will bring up a whole month of just really profound change. Especially considering, you know, the moon is going to deal a lot with subconscious feelings, things relating to intense relationships with family members or home situations, or things that are coming up pretty intensely there. Venus is retrograding in my 7th. This transit has been loud and rude. I've spoken to a lot of Cancer risings who have been telling me that the Venus retrograde in the 7th, having the retrograde happen in an angular house is very it's going to be very active, right? Especially if it's in the 7th or the 10th house. It's conflict, it's how you're dealing with superiors, status changes, relationships, things like that. But definitely 7th house, people think the 7th house is like Libra and it's all about marriage. Not always. Sometimes it's about having to clear the air with people. So sending you lots of good vibes in the midst of that difficult and challenging Venus retrograde. I feel like Cancer risings have really been telling me how challenging it's been. Cancer risings and Aries risings. Thankfully for Capricorn and Libra risings, our drama is a lot more private, so it's not as public. It's not as obvious, I guess, as some of the other placements. Yep, Cancer rising. So pay close attention to what's going on, because the Pluto oppositions are particularly intense. So I would say learning a lot about the Pluto opposition transits or the Venus opposition transits to the moon can be extremely sensitive. Extremely, extremely sensitive. Once again, just checking in to see, do we have any of our level 3 people? Let me know. Those of you guys who are interested in joining the memberships, you can do that too. If you want to join the memberships, you can get your monthly reading now, and you can still get one for next month. When you subscribe, you're going to support the channel, make it possible for me to keep making extra content for you guys. Besides the astro weather and the live shows, you know, if you guys have seen the extras that I've been doing, some of the other things that I'm working on right now is I've been spending the last couple days getting everything ready because I'm doing a live show that's going to be on New Year's Day. So that's going to be fun because I'm going to do a donation-based live show. So I'm probably going to stream for a couple hours in the late morning hours, at least here on the West Coast. And just talk about all the astrology of 2022 and kind of go into it. I'm trying to create like a keynote or something for you guys. And I'm going to do a follow-up video also, I think, to the Venus retrograde, as well as a follow-up video for the Pluto return, because that is definitely going to be alive and well in the new year. It's just the astrology towards the end of this year is just really kind of wild. It's like the setup for some of the bigger changes in 2022. So those of you guys who saw some of those videos, you're going to get more of my 2 cents now that Jupiter has made the ingress and we're in the Venus retrograde. Somebody said, D Cosmic is Sagittarius rising. Pluto's currently in my 2nd house along with Venus. I have a natal stellium in my 2nd house in Capricorn. So definitely an important time to pay attention to resources, money, finances, your aesthetic, self-esteem, spending habits. All of those things are going to come up for review. So it looks like we have somebody who popped in. And just a tip, guys, if you do end up making a purchase for a reading, just let me know. That way I'm aware, because your name can be different from what's on PayPal. And there's also a memo box so you can put your information. Just to expedite the process, please do remember to put in your first name and all of your date and time information, including the city that you were born in, along with your question. Hey, Patrick, nice to see you back here. Okay, so we have YouTube name P. Thanks, P. So let's get your information in, and then I will read your question so we can take a look. Let me know if there's a time. I don't see a time for you, P. So I see September 7th, 1996 in Singapore, but do you have the time? And let me know if it's AM or PM, please. Thanks, P. Just let me know if you have that time, because that is important. Otherwise, we're going to have to look at it with your sun on the ascendant. It'll resonate, but it won't be as exact as if we have the time. Cool. 1:14 p.m. Thank you. Hey, Emma. How's it going? All right, so P says, in my personal reading with you a few months ago, you said my chart screams that there's going to be a massive change in my current company that would affect me. That is indeed happening. Thank you for the follow-up. We've been informed of a final announcement of how the company is going to be restructured around mid-January. I've already been informed that my role will change significantly. This was after my manager resigned. However, the info I've gotten so far doesn't seem like it's something I want to do. How much can I ask, fight for my new role? I want something that I like and I'm being challenged by. I'm hoping for a promotion and a pay raise. How are the planetary energies for this? Great question. Hopefully you don't miss it. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on for you. P, just let me know if this resonates with you. Also, this is what I have. I have you as a Sag rising. So September 7th, 96, 1:14 p.m. in Singapore. So that's going to give you a Sagittarius rising. Okay, so your 10th house of career is going to deal a lot more with Mercury. And money and resources obviously is your 2nd house. You got a couple things going on here. I would wait to see what happens when Mercury, ruler of your career house, goes retrograde in your 2nd, although you're going to start seeing a lot of the effects or the themes of the retrograde now, right? So even as we speak, the last couple of days is pretty telling. Venus going retrograde, conjunct Mercury. It's a lot of like, well, let us figure it out. We'll get back to you. We'll get back to you with the budget. We'll get back to you with who we're keeping, who we're letting go of, who we're moving around into different places, right? I guess the good news, because there is good news here, is that there is going to be opportunity to acquire more wealth. Part of me wonders if it's going to be in a completely different place geographically, okay? So stay with me here. The reason why I say that is because you do have Pluto in a conjunction to your natal Neptune. Neptune rules your 4th house of home, and Venus and Mercury are going retrograde in your Neptune, or conjunct your Neptune. So tell me, are you already in a position right now where you're like, should I see what else is out there? Do I want to move somewhere else? Do I want to go to another city, go to another part of the city, go to another country? Have you started looking at that yet? Let me know. Especially with Jupiter getting ready to make its ingress fully into your 4th house. Just heads up, like I'm a Placidus reader, so I will look at whole sign, but I feel like I like using Placidus because certainly we feel the effects when a planet changes signs. So for example, Jupiter is in Pisces right now. So being a Sag rising, there's going to be something going on where you're more open to the idea of expanding your home or possibly living somewhere new. It's just going to be a theme all year. However, I don't really feel like you're going to really see that until it starts to actually pass about 17, 18, 19 degrees. So here's going to be times to watch. Geographically, I doubt it, but I will be in a completely different team. I've indeed been thinking of finding another job, but still waiting to see what happens with my current role. So, here's what I would say. You're not going to see an ending happening, I think perhaps maybe for some time. Like, I think that obviously you're going to continue to have a job because Saturn's in a pretty strong trine still in the new year to your 10th house. I'm more looking at what they actually come back with in terms of the budget and the money that they're willing to spend and what they're capable of giving people salary-wise once we've gotten into the retrograde. So second half of January, Mercury goes retrograde, and there is going to be a cazimi around the 22nd. Those of you guys who are not aware of what a cazimi is, traditionally when you've got planets within 10 degrees of the sun, it gets burned up, right? It's almost like Icarus, where he gets too close to the sun and he melts. So, and it's kind of like a mercurial energy where he's very similar to Hermes. When we have a cazimi, though, this is when the planet is in the heart of the sun. So the Mercury in its retrograde, before it actually goes behind the sun, it's going to be conjunct and it's going to be just ahead of it by a couple minutes. Because Mercury rules in your chart, your 10th house, and the sun rules your 9th, which is about possibly learning something new, some kind of training, what you could get paid for, or where else you could find a job, this is going to be a day to watch. Watch for January 22nd, right around there, maybe within 48 hours. You're going to get some message, you're going to get some sign about either a better paying position, they're going to have a better idea of what they can afford, or they'll be more willing to talk to you about what they can afford. I'm also looking at when Mercury drops back down, and it's going to be particularly close to both Pluto and your natal Neptune. So this will be January 30th. So maybe they say to you, hey, give us until mid to the second half of January. We'll let you know. You can ask for a raise. We'll get back to you. So you can ask, you can talk about it. But the challenge that I see in the midst of this is that there does seem to be some sense of needing to cover your cost of living, right? Neptune ruling your 4th house. It's like, well, can I continue to keep living the way that I'm living or where that I'm living? Can I keep paying my bills the way that I've been paying my bills if I'm not getting a raise, right? Is it worth it? Self-worth is a huge theme in the 2nd house. And when you're having these transits, especially conjunct Pluto, they're very potent. Now, Pluto's moving forward, so it's moving away from your Neptune. I do feel like this does give you some room to negotiate, at least up until the end of January, and be asking for more money. But in terms of responsibility, I mean, still, that's also going to be aspects between, you know, Mercury and Pluto. Does it come at a cost? That's the question, right? Does it come at a cost? Usually, to see huge significant shifts in regards to your career, we start seeing aspects like Saturn, you know, trining your sun or sextiling your sun. You're not having that. What you are going to have is Jupiter making an opposition to your sun once again. So Jupiter is expanding your ascendant, expanding your 4th house. I don't know where you live, but I would say this is a job that I would at least shoot your shot and basically be like, look, you know, can I get a promotion? Can I get a review? This is what I would like to be paid. You know, can I get a raise in my salary? And use January to negotiate. The likelihood is, though, that once Jupiter comes into an opposition with your sun, you are going to find that there is another job or there is a higher position, but you have to train for it. And it may require you to do some kind of training or some kind of testing. Equally, if you're not interested in doing that for the current company that you're working for, I would say look for a job that's in another place. Jupiter making an opposition to your sun might give you the opportunity to go, oh, I can make more money, but it's going to be across town, or I've got an interview for this job, but it's going to be in another city. And you may have to do the interview and do the back and forth, most likely from a screen, especially I'm looking at the stellium of planets that are kind of coming up in your 3rd house. And that's really going to be the theme really all the way up until about March. Now, we can also wait until, you know, Venus comes back into some kind of an aspect between these degrees. So you're going to know by about the end of January, early February, I think, whether or not they can afford to even pay you what you want to be paid. If you're not vibing with that, and if it doesn't feel good, I would say go looking for something elsewhere. Also, so you were born in 1996, right? Let me do the math here. Pull up your annual perfection year. Okay, so you're in a perfection year 25. So let's look at that. So that's going to highlight and bring up your 2nd house, which is all going to deal with money and resources. Now, your 2nd house lord is Saturn. So the Saturn-Uranus squares have affected you all year. Just a heads up, this is going to play out clear until we get to closer to your birthday next year. 2nd house is about money and resources. So this Venus retrograde is very important. When we see Venus come into conjunction with Saturn, I have a feeling that there is going to be a possibility for an issued contract or maybe even an interview for another position that you would have to interview for digitally or possibly over the phone. They may offer you something new, but this is going to be something completely different because Saturn and Venus will square the nodes. Equally, down the road, something else I would pay attention to is going to be the Mercury retrograde that's going to happen at the end of May when Mercury comes into a square with Saturn. So I'm right now more concerned about my new responsibilities, my new role, because I've been told so far something completely different for what I'm doing. I send email through people. So, I mean, here's the thing. The likelihood is that until you get out of the Mercury retrograde, which will not be, like, the shadow is not going to end until, I think, the end of February, early March. The likelihood is that there is still some kind of, you know, playing musical chairs at work and trying to kind of do what you can just to get through. Like, I really do think it's going to take that long. So I do think that you'll be able to stay there, but I would say give this until maybe mid to the end of February. And if you get the impression that you're going to not be fulfilling the role that they told you, or if you feel like you're not getting paid enough, then I would talk to them about it. The transits are on your side. The problem is I think that they're kind of keeping you as a placeholder right now until certain transits come together and we see all of these planets trine your 6th house, and perhaps maybe they've like built other departments or they've built other teams or there's other things that they've built out, and then they can kind of put you in the role that they originally hired you for. The challenge is that you're in a 2nd house Saturn year, and Saturn is going to square the nodes all year. So this is not something that you want to just kind of stay with and hope for the best and hope that things get better, because you'll find yourself in February wanting to talk to them about making change, in the end of May going into June also talking to them about making change. Like there is a possibility that you could be there clear until about mid next year and you're still going through the same stuff, you know? But second house years do usually materialize as making more money, and you'll see that when you have a positive aspect between Venus and Saturn. So I feel like that can be when Venus and Saturn come together around the end of March. I also feel like that can be when Venus is maybe trining your natal Saturn. And let's see, that would be in a fire sign. And probably just after your Venus return, come about mid-August of 2022. So they could continue to keep giving you, you know, the riot or the runaround in a way, and like kind of keep it dragging on. So, and it may finally break through once you get into August of next year when Jupiter comes into a conjunction with your Saturn. So hopefully that is helpful for you. Let me know. Unfortunately, with the transits that are going to be happening in this next year, it's going to be a series of things that are going to have to unfold before there's actual change. Now, if you have to make a job change, if you decide, hey, you know what, I don't want to keep doing this, I don't want to be in a position that's not working for me, I don't want to be in a position where they just keep telling me they're going to give me a status change, they're going to pay me more money, definitely do not continue to keep staying once the retrograde happens in the 6th house of yours. And that'll be at the end of May going into June of 2022. That would be a really great time for you to make a job change, because it will be in support of your natal Neptune and a couple other places. But like I said, I get the impression you're going to get the runaround. So I would say stay with it until about the end of February and see how far you can go with negotiating. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Follow back, circle back around, let me know what happens, because I'm interested to see how that pans out for you. Okay, so let's see. Did we have anybody else who was level 3 who wanted to get a reading? I know we have like Emma here. I think that's the only person who I saw. Otherwise, I'm just going down the list, guys. Thank you for your patience. I'll be doing the readings in the order that they were received. So we've got Jessica here. Yeah, at least give it till the end of January, and you're going to see that they're definitely going to have stuff better organized. My issue is I get the impression that they're going to have some major cutbacks or financial issues. So I would not stay for 4, 5, 6 months hoping that things are going to change. Get something written on paper. Look for that when Saturn and Venus comes into a conjunction, February, March. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, so moving on to Jessica. Let me get your info in. Okay, so we've got, hey Candace, we've been trying to find and buy a house for well over a year, wondering if you see it in my chart over the coming months and if the outlook is any better. 11/7/79. All right, so let's take a look. Okay, at 2:58 a.m. And that was in St. Louis. All right. And this is for Jessica. All right. So Jessica, just let me know if this is correct. November 7th, 79, 2:58 a.m. Looks like you are 0 degrees Libra rising. Okay, so questions about the house. Interesting question. So obviously Venus is going retrograde in your 4th house. My one question for you would be, are you in the process of trying to sell a house currently before you get a new one? Is there anything like that going on? Let me know. Because there's a bit of like musical chairs happening in your chart right now with Venus going retrograde in your 4th house, which deals with property and real estate. According to your chart, Venus also rules your second. So it's a little bit of like, oh, do I want to live here? Do I want to live there? And possibly either trying to get rid of a house, trying to sell something to buy something else, or the possibility that you're considering moving back to a place that you've lived in the past. So I'd like to know, what's your current housing situation? Where are you living? Where do you want to live? That'll help me kind of guide you. 2 is that for you to have a positive transit in your 4th house, I would recommend really waiting until this Venus retrograde is over. In fact, I would say maybe even waiting until the Mercury retrograde is over. Now with Capricorn on the 4th, Saturn is your ruler. So we need to see a positive aspect between Saturn for this to happen. Right now is a great time to be looking according to your chart and making sure that you have everything set up and ready to go when it comes to your loans or your credit score or qualifying, having something in hand that says that you're going to qualify for a home loan. So I'm wondering what the state of that is right now. The Mercury, Pluto, Venus tells me that there's some sense of like either anxiety or something that's uncomfortable about where you're currently living. So one thing that I do notice here is that once Mars gets into the mix and it starts coming into a conjunction with planets in Capricorn, you might see something really shift and kind of speed up in regards to getting ready to make a move. I notice Scorpio rules your 3rd house, so I'm kind of feeling like maybe when Mars moves into Capricorn and it starts coming into a trine with Uranus and the Venus retrograde has ended somewhere around mid-February through March, maybe a better time. Cool. Currently renting in LA, would ideally move within LA, but would move outside of LA if my husband was transferred. Okay. So your husband and your husband's job and all of that stuff, by the way, is your 4th house. The 10th house for you is your career. The 4th house is your husband's career. So I don't know if you're aware of that. So when I look at your astrology, I kind of feel inclined to tell you, one is either look at parts of LA that you have already lived in before that you would be willing to go back to. 2, I would say, depending on your husband's chart, it may be more beneficial for you to look into, asking him if he's interested in asking about transferring. It really also depends on how you feel about where you're currently living, right? With a chart like this, I'm curious if you're actually really happy living in LA. That's just a curiosity thing because Venus rules your chart and she's currently retrograde conjunct Pluto and Mercury. So if you are satisfied where you're living and you do like living in LA, then it's a matter of just not being too thrilled with your current home, right? And just knowing that you need to make a change. Now, let's say you do find something, because a retrograde can bring something to you. So it would be an older home because it's Capricorn. It would be something that may not be remodeled. It may look old-fashioned. It may have older kind of style inside of the home. It may be a little bit kind of bare bones, right? You may find something, though, with Venus retrograde in your 4th that's just like a major steal. Like I've seen people with transits like this that end up finding a house that sat on the market and people really wanted to get rid of it. And, they finally meet somebody who's like willing to drop their asking price significantly. So definitely be on the hunt is what I would say. With a chart like this, I think moving is going to go a whole lot smoother for you, though, at least mid-February on. I also feel inclined to tell you, like, just knowing what I know with what's coming economically in the next year with the astrology, just be mindful, like you're buying at the top of the market, okay? So you're going to be buying a house at the top of the market. So if you don't mind doing that, and if you really plan on and anticipate staying in LA and money is not an issue, have at it. My eyes get really big when I look at your chart because you have yet to have Neptune come into an opposition with your Saturn, which you have in Virgo in the 12th. What that is going to do is it's going to provide new opportunities in this next year for work elsewhere, whether that's your husband telecommuting or you having a job that you can do online or finding something new. So that's something else that I'm kind of looking at, especially when Jupiter and Neptune move to make an opposition with your Saturn. The likelihood is that things, I definitely, the bigger drops are going to be like 2026, 2027. Okay. Just a heads up when we have some bigger transits. So it's like, there are some people who are holding out and waiting until that point to purchase. If you are not one of those people, I would say definitely May through August, you're going to see some substantial shifts next year in the market, but it may take till 2026, 2027 to really kind of fully break down. But my eyes get big looking at your chart because in this next year, Saturn is going to square your natal Uranus in the 2nd house. And it's also going to square the transit Uranus and the North Node in the 8th house, which means there's going to be this huge shift revolving around what makes you happy, what brings you joy, what your responsibilities are, Saturn in the 5th, whether or not you have children, whether or not you have to take care of children. If not, it's, weighing your options when it comes to your hobbies and kind of going, well, where do I need to scale back on some things for? Purely because, one of us does not have the same income that we used to have. So it's pretty complex. It's a little bit more than what you're asking for, but just Uranus in your 8th house making an opposition to your natal Sun and natal Uranus with a square from Saturn next year makes me inclined to kind of tell you, be careful with your spending. Be very careful with your spending, because it could be a situation where either you or your partner are suddenly realizing that you have to go without a job, or you have to let a job go, or you have to let a stream of income go, or you make an investment so you're kind of tighter on your budget, so you can then in turn make a change with your home. You will have also all the way up until the end of 2022, or you'll have another Mercury retrograde there at the end of next year. So you may move and then still turn around in some situation and go, you know what, I still don't want to be here, Hi, Miss Romero, just let me know if you've sent a payment and I will add you to my list. Oh, I see you just now. Don't worry. We got a number of people on the list. So I got to keep it moving. But buying a house, not now. If you're going to buy a house in terms of, when the transits look good, I would say I would at least wait until Mercury and maybe even Venus and other placements go into your 8th house and begin coming out of the square with Saturn. And if you wait, you'll thank me for waiting, because you're going to see what I'm talking about next year when there are some shifts revolving around money and resources with you and a partner. So the other thing I would say for you is if you can wait until Venus, your chart ruler, is coming into trines with Pluto, like May, June, July, also better times for you to be moving. But you could really hold off on this for some time. Just be aware that you may move and it still may be a year down the road and you're like, actually, we don't want to be in LA. So I would be looking out of LA, or I would be talking to your partner about other places that you could potentially transfer to. That's just my 2 cents looking at this, especially because you are now coming into a 9th house year, right? 79. Let me just make sure here. So that puts you at 42. So you're actually in a 7th house year. So a lot of it's going to depend on, where he can work. And then right after your birthday, you're going to move into an 8th house year, which is going to be a Taurus year. So even purchasing a home could go 1 more year if you could really help it, Otherwise, if this were me, definitely Jupiter in opposition to your Saturn can also bring something. So end of March through May, I would say, is probably a better time to be looking. And then you could even wait until Jupiter retrogrades again and Venus and Mercury are in your 4th house at the end of December. So one of those times before you have a move. And if you start to feel the craziness of the transits and you need a reading next year, let me know, because you're going to see some of the things that are happening in February, March, because Saturn rules your fourth house. So when Saturn starts coming into a square with your Sun and Uranus, it makes me wonder, is there an investment that pays off so you guys suddenly have some extra cash to invest? Do you decide to start a business or start a side hustle which brings in more money, which makes it easier for you to buy a home or pay off a home? Are you needing to get a new home because you have children? You know, usually Saturn in the fifth house square the second and the eighth is issues revolving around kids and resources. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Thank you guys. I see everybody asking questions. I see you in the list here. We've got a number of people. Also, Melanie Thompson, you sent me a bill, not a request, just a heads up. So that was Jessica. So we've got Delisha, Miranda, Rachel, Udinanda, and Melanie. That's the order. So just hang tight, guys. Yeah, definitely just watch what happens. Give it until about February, March. Unless you find a house that you're totally crazy about in the next 2 months, it doesn't matter how amazing it may look. Get a really good inspector, because if you're having a Venus retrograde in your fourth house, you may find a house that's really cheap, but you might buy it and then find out there's issues with the foundation, or it's going to cost you $40,000 in plumbing to fix. And then you're going to go, oh my God, this is a money pit. I should have never done this. So be very careful making a purchase. Would definitely not recommend making a purchase until at least March if you can help it, but really second half of May. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Yeah, so we've got our subscribers. I'm just kind of scrolling up. Emma, did we do a reading for you? Did you want to get your reading? And we've got Sam. Sam, I need your information again, please. Yeah, if you want to get a reading, you have to be here for the live. I don't take anything unless it's during the live, but I will put your information in. So send that to me. We do have you subscribed. I'm getting fired from my job. Still learning the... Kind of see how females are upset with me because they don't know the full story. Okay. So it's like your stay alone as a triangulars tomorrow. I keep asking Instagram. 12/16/85. Okay, so can you just in a simple way, are you asking me which positions would be best? What is it that you're asking me? 12/16. Okay. And I need the time also. Thank you, Jess. I'll take you. Don't worry. That was in Dallas. I need to get the time from you, Sam, and then I can answer your question. Yeah, that is the puppy. The puppy does not like not getting to have a free run of the house. He's still learning his place in the world. Sorry, guys. Okay, Sam, let me know. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to go to the next person because I do need the time. 5:33. And can you explain to me the difference? So you have the option of doing the serving. You have the option of working at the club. What's the other option? Oh, that's not right. PM. He's little. He's still learning. A couple things that I would say for you when it comes to like work, you know, just with this, I get confused and overwhelmed super easy, leading Western comes. Okay. So going back to like work stuff. So you're coming off of the eclipses that you've had in Sagittarius. Now Mars is going through your 6th house and it's literally cutting a job. So it hit Mercury, it hit the South Node, it's going to hit Venus. So the good news is that, like, to me, it seems like there's a new job opportunity on the horizon, especially in the new year. From about the 4th on, you may see something nice kind of pop up between the 4th and the 10th. One thing I would say, though, is that with Mars in conjunction to Uranus in your 6th, I would say be careful because your nervous system is still like really kind of on edge. Like there's either health issues or there's scheduling issues or issues like that that are actually setting you up to have some problems with work. Besides that, we assess what's going on with your 10th house. So the 10th house, Pisces, is, you know, working at a bar, working at a club, working at a dispensary, working in some form of being able to help people or guide people, working at night or something that would, herb sales would work. I would say to you that with your natal Venus-Uranus conjunction, I think herb sales would actually be really great, especially when Neptune goes deeper into your 10th house. And the sweet spot for your chart, I mean, it's going to take time. I do see you making money. Like you're going to make a chunk of change, especially because you have Venus and Mars and Pluto going through your 8th house. But there's going to be a situation where it's like money's coming in so much better and so much easier from about March of 2022 on, that if you have an option from herb sales or anything like that, that's a better way to go. And it's trying to push you out of something where you're in the service industry. Like it doesn't want you to be waiting tables. It doesn't want you to be bartending. It doesn't want you to be doing those things. So there's some emphasis on getting you out of that type of work and into something new. So I would give it a little bit of time. Certainly the sweetest spot, though, is definitely going to be the beginning of March, when the Sun and Jupiter come together in your 10th house. So it is providing you, especially with that new moon, a completely different type of work, which, by the way, even if you started doing some kind of work while you were working at the restaurant, the schedules weren't going to match up. You were going to get to a point at the end of February where you were going to be like, I got to make a change, because Jupiter is moving into your 10th house and it wants to offer you more opportunities to partner with other people who need your help or they need your expertise. So I feel like that's a better option. And I also feel like, I mean, just with the theme of, you asked about like escorting, you know, your 10th house ruler is Neptune. It's in the 7th. I feel like out of 3, it's more talking about people, sales, interacting with them, giving them your opinion on stuff. I think that's going to be a better move. Certainly anybody with Venus Uranus is open to that, or they would consider that, but I'm not so crazy about that option of escorting because of the opposition it makes to your Chiron. I feel like it would give you more emotional stress. Fighting sinus congestion and stress from not seeing my family. If you're going to give me I think, you know, honestly, I would say because you're still coming off of these eclipses, I would wait this out a little bit. And as soon as you start getting sextiles to your midheaven, which is as early as February, you know, I think that the job prospects are going to get a whole lot better. So whether that's trying something new for about a month and seeing how you're liking it and having the opportunity to make more money or have just more coming in February through March, money's looking pretty good. I'm excited to see what that Mars-Venus conjunction is going to manifest as in your 8th house, because you're definitely going to have more money coming in. Can even be cash tips, bonuses, things like that. That's what you're likely to see. And then the sweet spot's going to be when all these planets come into your 10th, and it's sitting there in April. So you should be in a completely different type of work by then. Very busy. April all the way through June because of the Jupiter change, and also because of Mars. So I would say get out of the service industry. That's not going to suit you very well. It's going to create a lot of health issues too because of your Saturn, Mercury, and your 6th. Being in areas where people are drinking or things like that could definitely have a real effect on you, because it's not just the Saturn-Mercury conjunction. It squares your midheaven, it squares your moon. Sinuses often have to do with either Aries, or I would say it can be anything related to the face. So I noticed that, you know, you've got some squares that are going to start happening to your planets that you have in your 6th house on your moon. So the moon can also sometimes be the face. So I think the sinus issues are from that, but it's more emotional. Let me know what happens though, but I would definitely say, like, coming out and looking for work. I mean, if you want to be in retreat mode now, definitely can, but I think that you're going to be really focused on like starting some kind of work within about 3 weeks. So maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and then you're going to get back on it. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Looks like we had somebody else here. Who did we have? Somebody else who was a regular. Emma, excuse me. Emma, I love a reading, but I think I need to upgrade my membership to 3 to do so. Hopefully, okay, no worries. We'll see you in the new year. Dancing's fine, but stay away from places with alcohol. I mean, I get that might be hard to do with dancing, but that's going to be hard with the Mercury-Saturn conjunction. Hey, Wendy, how's it going? Nice to see you. All right, so I'm going to move down my list, guys. Thanks for being patient. We've got Delisha. Curious to have insight on my current new career path I'm working towards. I feel this will bring me incredible financial success. However, I still find myself doubting myself from time to time. February 14th, 1990. And that was at 1:52 a.m. And where was that? It says USA, but what state, so I can get the time zone? Can you let me know? Happy New Year! You're very welcome, Sam. It's so crazy. It's almost a new year, guys. I can't even believe it. This year has gone by so fast. Delisha, let me know, girl. What state are you from? It says USA. So just remember, guys, if you're tuning in, you can get a 1 question for $40, $60 for Synastry. We've got the little QR code right here, or you can check the link that's down below, or it might be pinned in the chat. I need your first name, your date of birth, the time, AM or PM, and the year. Where in Louisiana? What city? We need to know the city and the state, or the province and the country. It's okay. No worries. Just let me know where, otherwise I'm gonna have to bump you and go to the next person. So if you guys have not already sent me that stuff, please do. Please do. That way I have it ready to go. Baton Rouge. All right, so let's take a look at this. February 16th, 1990, 1:52. Thank you. Appreciate it, SR. Okay, so let's take a look at this again. I feel the success your current career path you're working towards feel to bring you success, doubting yourself from time to time. Okay, so let's take a look. So you're a Sag rising. Thanks, Rachel. You're a Sag rising, so Mercury's going to rule your 10th house of career. Mercury's going retrograde with Pluto in also Venus. Well, Mercury will be going retrograde. One thing I would say is that when it comes to a new career endeavor. Tell me, is this something that you're pursuing, like you're hoping to get hired for a job, or are you thinking about launching a business? And do you mind me asking what kind of a business it is? So you're coming out of your Saturn's return. Venus is going retrograde through your natal Venus and your natal Saturn. So that's kind of big. I like that it's trining your midheaven. One thing I would say is it's really important to pay attention to how much you're putting into something, how much you're investing into something. So if you want to give me some insight as to what kind of business it is, if you're working for yourself or someone else, that's helpful. One thing I would say is under no circumstance do you have any business launching anything really until March. And I'm curious because I'm a little concerned with either how much time or how much resources, you're putting into your own business, because Venus and Pluto are not fucking around. Being that it's going retrograde, Mercury and Venus will go retrograde conjunct Pluto over your own natal Venus and Saturn. It's wonderful for reevaluating how much do I want to be paid, what is my worth, what can I create, how can I dig deep and show my own talents. And the second house can build something very solid and very substantial, especially because it's trining your Uranus and it's also trining your 10th house. Saturn in the next year will just continue to build into a trine with your moon. So the truth is that to me, it looks very timely that you're making this change and you're realizing I'm worth more, I need more, I have all these talents, there's more that I can kind of show up for and make happen. But slow and steady wins the race. Saturn rules time. You need to take your time. I would be very careful about how much you're putting into this expense-wise, because very easily with Venus and Pluto over your natal Saturn Venus, you can spend too much. It can bring up limitation or stagnation or doubting yourself with the second house. It can be a lot of like self-esteem stuff. You've already kind of gotten your butt kicked as Saturn has gone through Capricorn. I can see your life has been quite eventful from about 2017 up until this last year. You've had a lot of planets go through Capricorn and also Pluto as well. So you have a lot to celebrate. This is almost like the grand finale, the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde. And it's just making sure that you have learned all of your karmic lessons revolving around your self-esteem and also investments. Now, Mercury rules your 10th house, and you've got Mercury natally placed in your 3rd. So I'm wondering, is it, it's in Aquarius. It looks like it's in your 3rd, but it's technically in your 2nd. What kind of a business is this? Is it cosmetics? Is it stuff that's design or aesthetic oriented? Is it something you're building? What is it that you're doing? Cash and money handling seems to be a big emphasis, and coming up with a budget is the one thing that I would really focus on. And if you're going to launch something, I would say to you that launching something is going to go a whole lot smoother depending on what kind of a business it is, closer to the spring of next year. I would really like to see these transits over with. If you want to launch something that's going to stick, it's looking a whole lot sweeter for you from about the end of February on. You need another 2 months or so to really kind of work this out. Make sure you've got the money for it, coming up with a plan. Okay, so you're trading. Cool. I really also love that Uranus over the next couple of years in your 5th house, which does deal with speculative stuff, trading, working with stocks, it's going to continue trining your Saturn and your Venus. So actually, this is a pretty sweet chart for the next 2 or 3 years, and I think that you may actually find that this is very lucrative. Virgo midheaven is very analytical, it's very detail oriented, but I look at your 2nd house and it's like a lot of understanding values. It's all ruled by Saturn, so it's also understanding maybe currencies around the world or materials from around the world. And yeah, really great cash handling skills is the one thing that I see in your astrology, especially as Pluto gets closer and closer to your Mercury in a number of years. It may manifest as you being like, oh, I want to start a YouTube channel, or oh, I want to train other people, or I'm going to create a digital how-to course and I'm going to teach other people how to do this. So yeah, wonderful, wonderful options for your chart. I think it's a really great idea. I also think that there is going to be some other changes that you're going to be making Career-wise, that's happening in May or June of 2022. This will be when the Mercury retrograde goes through your 6th house, and I wonder if that's when you really segue from a day job to doing this full time. That may be what happens, or you make the decision to go, okay, I'm all in, now I'm really focusing on this, and I'm willing to give up how I've been working or what I've been doing in order to make more money and give more time to trading. So slow and steady, give it until mid next year to really make that segue, and I think that you'll naturally start making that segue pretty easily right around mid 2022. But be very, very, very careful with the markets in the next month. There is going to be some very wild swings. Your chart reminds me a lot of the US chart because it's a Sag rising. It's got Pluto going through the 2nd house. It's got Venus that's in the conjunction in the retrograde. Certainly there's an opportunity to make a lot of wealth, but also there can be things where you're going, you're putting a lot of money up, and it, you know, Venus retrogrades don't always work out so well when there's big exchanges going on in your 2nd house. So I would say just practice moderation with that really up until March, and keep stashing and setting money aside if that's what you want to do, so you can really make that segue over the summer next year. Hopefully that's helpful for you. I know that was a lot. Let's get into who else is in the queue. Here we go. So we've got Miranda. Let me know if you are here. I do not see a comment for you. Otherwise, Rachel, let's see. Oh, Jess Downing, is that you? Okay. Let's pull you up here. 3/28, 1990. All the 1990 people are like, what the hell's going on? Because of all the transits in Capricorn. 3/28. And that was 3:39 p.m. in Cleveland. All right. So it looks like you were asking, my question is, do we see any money miracles or moving? No worries. Money miracles. Well, ask and you shall receive. Yes, but that's going to take a little time. So money resources is Mercury. Mercury's in shadow right now. It's going back and forth over your Saturn. So tell me, in terms of what's going on right now, what are you experiencing, and do you feel a major limit or responsibility financially for somebody you're taking care of? This is a doozy. You know, you've got Pluto, Mercury, and Venus on your Saturn right now. So I'm wondering, like, do you have a kid you're having to take care of? Are you finding it difficult to ask a romantic partner for assistance? What's going on there? What is the deal there? Money miracles, when you see like some like Mercury aspects that are going on. Mercury is going to keep going retrograde over your Saturn. So yesterday, today, tomorrow, an interesting theme here, because you've got Venus, which is money and resources, ruler of your 3rd. You've got Mercury, which is your chart ruler, and you've got Pluto all in your Saturn. So did you ask like a sibling for help, or did you ask a romantic partner for help? That's what I'm wondering. I would say that having Jupiter ingress into your 8th and having Venus go there, looking for a job, and kid by myself. Yeah, so really, this is all the planets on Saturn in the 5th house, which is taking care of a child. And usually some assistance can come because Venus is there, but it would be from a 3rd house person, like a neighbor who says, well, I'll help feed you guys, or I'll help watch your kids so you can go to work, or a sibling or an aunt or an uncle or a cousin who goes, yeah, I'll loan you some money. That's the kind of stuff that can come up right now. Resources get a little bit better when Venus conjuncts your Neptune, and this will be right around January 19th. You may have some money come in or somebody who's willing to help you. I take that back, not even the 19th. It'll be sooner than that. January 15th through the 19th. And then also when Jupiter and Venus go into your 7th house. Actually, money does look better then. This is going to be right around the beginning of April, and then actually right around the end of April. And when Venus and Jupiter come together, that's definitely going to be some support. So it may even be the same source that ends up happening, helping you in mid-January, ends up coming back and helps you again at the end of April. Because Saturn is karma, it's responsibility. You know, right now, unfortunately, you have Pluto and Venus and Mercury all sitting right on top of your Saturn. So I would say karmic responsibility is related to taking care of children. I would wonder, do you have a romantic partner in your life? Do you have somebody? Because I see that sextile between Saturn and Neptune in your 7th. Now, the positive side could be that you have people who come in that want to help you. They want to partner with you. They want to help take care of your kid. Like, that can happen. The not so easy part of this is the Pluto aspect, where that is sextiling Neptune. And you're like, okay, my kid's father is nowhere to be found. I don't have any help. Nobody's helping me. Nobody's going to support me. So it really depends on how that's playing out for you. One thing I would say is that I would be really mindful of your health. Because Saturn is coming into a conjunction with your Mars, and it's really important to pay attention to the body and what's going on with your health right now. I also think that Saturn's conjunction to your Mars is setting the stage for possibly getting a job where you can work with a friend, or a friend gets you a hookup at a job. And 6th house Aquarius is like, you know, maybe you're working with a team, maybe you're doing some kind of team effort, team building, team exercises, you know, fitness, wellness, certainly hospitality jobs will pop up. I see a lot of opportunity for that for you in the new year, and resources are only going to get better. I have a partner that I'm trying to leave. No good. Okay, well then it's part of it is that, you know, if you already feel like you have one kid that you're taking care of and you have another partner that's not as supportive, I'm not saying taking care of you, but somebody who's not really supporting you in your time of need, sometimes the Venus, Mercury, Pluto aspect right now can make you go, you know what, why do I have this person around if they're not supporting me when they see that I'm struggling, or they're not, you know, assisting me. So that may be part of it because it's sextiling Neptune. But you never know if you don't ask. So that's something else that I would say is, you know, do keep that in mind. Part of the sextile to Neptune is saying, hey, I'm struggling. You know, I would hope that I'd have a partner that would have my back. Is there something you can do to help me? And if you don't get the response that you're looking for, time to cut, especially during a Venus retrograde. Resources will get better as soon as Jupiter gets into Pisces. And then once it gets into Aries and it's on your sun, I could definitely see you making a substantial amount of more money next spring. It's looking even better and better. Look into also not just getting a job, but looking to fine-tune your skills. Part of what you're going to see in the new year with Saturn conjunct your Mars and a Mercury retrograde there is, well, what do I want to take a course? Do I want to go to school for something? Do I want to do a technical or a career college? Do I want to go and learn something like that that's going to give me the capabilities of being able to work? Because that's going to keep coming up for you next year, because you're going to see Saturn in your 6th house square Pluto and square the nodes. So getting ahead of that is better. Start thinking about realistically what you want to be doing long term. It's possible that you start learning how to do something new in the new year, and you may have a completely different profession come mid-2022. Trying to move, maybe, but I would say with a chart like this, you know, you're born in 1990, so you're 31. You're going to be 32 next year. It'll be a 9th house year, so it's a perfect time for a further away move. It's also really good for you to be going back to school or learning something. So right now you're in an 8th house year. So when planets go through the 8th house, which will be Jupiter and Neptune's ingress, you'll start to see changes. Issues with your ankles, circulation, problems with your digestion, because you've got the North Node in your 6th. Accidents involving heat, cutting, fevers, things like that. I would actually say because you've got Mars and Venus in the North Node in your 6th, and Venus rules your 10th house, you would be somebody who's really good at helping people health-wise, or helping people with design, or helping people in being of service. You know, the 6th house is service. So it's like, this is a chart where you could like cut color hair. You could do all kinds of things aesthetically or with cosmetics that I feel like would be something that would be good for you to really kind of get your career up and running next year. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Hi, Elaine. I see you. You are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people down on my list. So just be patient. Annual perfection year. So basically, annual perfections, you can look them up. Each year, you have to use whole signs. So each year is going to be represented by a different house and a different lord. So for example, you know, look at your year. So, you know, 1 through 12 is going to be 1 through 12, and then it's going to go on from there. So like, your 30th year is your 7th house year. Your 31st year is your 8th house year. Your 32nd year is your 9th house year. So you need to look at when planets in transit go through that house, what lord rules that house, and aspects to it. That is the most accurate form of predictions that I have used. So depending on your age, so you just have to look it up. You guys can, let me drop a link here. I'll drop a link so you guys can look at annual perfections. And technically that's Hellenistic astrology. So it's very different for some people. Here's just, I'm just dropping this here. It's just an article, but it's got the image, but you guys can see this. There you go. And if you look at the wheel, you can look at it and you can see where your age is. And you want to use the whole sign system, not Placidus, use whole sign. It's the best way to make that work. All right, so let's move on. We've got Rachel. Nice to see you again, Rachel. 5484. And that was at 2:30 p.m. And I know you put that information in. Yeah, I can tell you yours. Let's see. I know you sent this to me. Eureka, California. Oops. Okay, so we've got been having a super emotional hard time letting go of someone I've been seeing for 2 years who's been in and out. Virgo rising. Oh, it's the 5th house stuff that's going on. Hi, Kirsten. Okay, so 2021 minus 1984. So you're 37. So you're in your 37th year. So that is your 2nd house year. And your 2nd house is ruled by Venus. So yeah, the Venus retrograde's hard because it's affecting your self-worth and your self-esteem. I have not seen Lucas yet. So it's your second house annual perfection year. Your second house lord is Venus. Venus is going retrograde, conjunct Mercury and Pluto. And there's a lot of like, I don't understand. Why don't they talk to me anymore? Why won't they open up to me? Why don't they tell me which way it's going to go? Why don't they choose me, right? So the fact that you have your second house year, Venus, conjunct Pluto, which is really intense, and also your chart ruler, the last 48 hours looks like it's just like sucked. You know, I hate to say that, but those of you guys who are Virgo or Gemini risings or Taurus or Libra risings, the Venus, Pluto, Mercury conjunction has just been fucking horrible. So I'm sorry, there's a lot of that going around. Are there transits that'll tell you if somebody will hit the lottery? Yes, there's a number of them. Usually it involves like Jupiter, Uranus, or Jupiter, Pluto, 11th house, 5th house, 2nd house, 8th house, it depends. But yeah, so Rachel, it's been the last like couple of days that have been really intense. And I would say that being that it's a second house year, there's a lot of like, why don't they want to claim me or possess me or put a title on it? Why do they not want to say, oh, this is, you're mine, right? That's the issue that's kind of happening right now. And what I would say is that you actually benefit a lot by letting go. And I'm not just saying that, okay? You really do benefit a lot by letting go. Because part of what's happening right now is like a lesson in learning not to determine your worth based off of whether or not somebody wants you. Relationships are challenging for you. You have Venus in opposition to Pluto. So it's a lot of like possessiveness and sometimes kind of like jealousy and all of that fun Venus-Pluto stuff. And I think that, you know, one thing I would say that has been going on for you this year is really since last year, actually, when Saturn came into Aquarius in your 6th house and it squared both Pluto and also Venus, it was meant to kind of show you that relationships will end if they're not ultimately going to serve you in the best way. Okay. If anything, if you guys listen to my Jupiter and Pisces video, Virgo and Virgo risings have some of the best transits for love, marriage, and relationships next year of all of the signs. Maybe Scorpio risings are second to that. So part of what I see happening is in your chart, you can't quite see that all of these planets, Mercury, Pluto, and Venus, are actually sextiling Neptune in your 7th. Which means you've got somebody who's not being clear, not being upfront, not being direct, not being honest, not ready, doesn't know, may not show up, right? And yeah, it's been happening all year. Part of it is because they are not reliable. But I would not underestimate the sextiles between these planets to Neptune. It's less about whether or not they choose you. What if you like flipped the script and you were like, wow, this really sucks. My heart doesn't feel good. I don't feel safe in this situation. I don't want to do this, but I feel alone. So if I'm going to feel alone, maybe it makes sense to just have a conversation with them and be like, hi, you're not here. You're not giving me what I need. I'm not feeling safe or secure. This doesn't feel good anymore. That's what it's trying to get you to communicate. Although, because it's a retrograde, this conversation may not actually really fully come up until the sun joins the mix and you realize it's not working mid-January when there's a full moon in your 5th and 11th house axis. And even if you hold on that long, you may not cut or sever something until Mars shows up. And I would caution you against this because it may be the other person kind of nixing it. And that would be the end of February. However, in the midst of all of this, really, it's in preparation to give you the opportunity the next month and a half to say, if it's not working, you cut it before somebody else does. And then 2, oh my goodness, look at all of these transits that are coming into your 7th house where you've got Jupiter, Venus, and Neptune, and the moon, and Mars. Girl, it doesn't really matter who it is because there's a breakthrough happening at the end of April, beginning of May, where like there is going to be a very dramatic, romantic, crazy opportunity for love and relationships that are going to appear. So for Virgo risings, this is definitely going to happen. For Tauruses, it's even more interesting because technically it's in the 11th house. So it's like your hopes and your goals and your wishes. So if you've been wishing for this perfect relationship, if you've been wishing for a long-term life partner, if you've been hoping or wishing to get married, whatever, These are the kinds of things that you might start seeing materialize in this next year. So really it's about to break through, right? And I would encourage you to just be aware right now that there's big issues going on in your horoscope in regards to other people not communicating well with you. I don't know if you feel that, but I'm looking at Saturn squaring your natal Saturn and also squaring your sun. For a Taurus, this is kind of like, okay, you know, I'm feeling like I need to take initiative and tell people what's up when it comes to relationships or my career. It's about you being in charge. So I would caution you against dragging this out too far. I would caution you against dragging this out until February and holding back and not having the conversations and not being forthcoming and being like, hey, this sucks. It doesn't feel good. You know? Yeah, you're not getting the communication. It sucks. And if you wait until the retrograde happens, you're going to feel like you're just in the same position again at the end of January, when your chart ruler goes retrograde and it conjuncts Pluto in these same degrees. By the way, Venus is going retrograde conjunct your Jupiter. It tells me there's somebody else looking for you. You know, there's literally somebody else who's probably in a similar situation going, I fucking hate my girlfriend or I hate this person that I've been dating with and they're driving me crazy and this isn't working. And wouldn't it be nice if I could just find somebody who I align with? Like, people don't realize that, you know, the fourth through, well, for the most part, I would say maybe the fifth through the 10th house is other people, you know, the whole right side of the chart is other people. So the 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th even is others. It's not you. So I can see in your chart, there's somebody else looking for you, but you're still caught up on this person who's been in and out. What a wonderful way to close the revolving door in a relationship in your 5th house of true love, while Venus retrogrades to your Jupiter, the traditional ruler of your 7th house. I mean, I would go as far as saying somebody may show up as early as mid to the end of January. It's possible, right? And Venus going retrograde is you falling back in love with yourself, getting clear with your own kind of sense of what's important and valuable to you. You going, you know what, I'm really looking for my Jupiter in a woman's chart. That can be their husband. So it's like, I'm looking for my husband. I want this person to show up. I want to move from just kind of casually dating to something that's serious and committed. So that shift in consciousness is going to happen naturally on the second half of January. And the more that you hold on to that, you have to be prepared that if it is not him, there can be a breakdown in the relationship, because having a Venus retrograde brings in soulmates. There's like a do-si-do. People come and people go. So, I mean, everybody who I've spoken to who is a Virgo rising or a Libra-based chart or a Taurus-based chart, it's just a thing right now. There's a lot of relationships that are getting ready to end. So I would say, looking at this chart, I'm more concerned about you missing your window of opportunity. That's more of my concern, right? If you don't take a chance and basically tell this person, hey, this is what I need. If you can't be it, that's fine, but I'm shutting the door. And be on the lookout and aware that when Mars shows up, it can be him ending it at the end of February, beginning of March. So to kind of protect your ego, save you, make it easier on you, get ahead of the curve. Trust me on this. That's really the best advice I can give you. You'll see. I'm sure you'll check back in with me at some point, April, May, June, and you'll be like, why did I do that for so long? And on the flip side, if it's him, then cutting him off may be the best solution to kind of drive a point home that you want to get off of the revolving door relationship and you want to have a sense of direction. You're not waiting for him to do it, right? Really pay attention. It's a very emotional conjunction you're having in your 5th house. To me, it seems very broken heart-esque, right? Pluto in the 5th. But also it gives you the opportunity to have a breakthrough. So hopefully that is helpful for you. Okay, so let's see here. Now we've got, for Isaac, I got to scroll all the way up. Let me pull this up here. So I'm assuming you're Isaac's mom. You said your son, January 30th, 2001. And let me know your question for him. You just said that you guys got some bad news, 2:30 a.m. in Los Angeles. And is that exact timing? So this is for, okay. So you said you received some bad news. Do you want to elaborate on that so I can be more specific with my response? Sag rising, exact timing, okay. So he's a Sag rising. You just had an eclipse pretty close to Saturn in his 6th. And okay, thank you. So let me know what your question is. We received bad news and wanted to know the outcome. What is it about? What is the bad news about? There's a million different things I can see from a chart. I will tell you off the bat that our dog just got kidney disease. Okay, I'm sorry to hear that. So the eclipse that you just had in his 6th house, which was in mid-November, this was very close to his natal Saturn in the 6th house, which is pets, okay? So kidney disease and also issues relating to like diabetes or blood sugar or any of that filtration is also the 6th house. So having an eclipse on Saturn, which is not such great health news, potentially about pets. The dispositor of that is Venus. Venus is in the 4th, so it's like the family kind of being upset about the fact that an animal is having a health problem. I would say that I don't have the dog's birthday, so I'm not going to speculate, but I will tell you that Saturn moving into the 3rd house and coming into a square with Saturn, Saturn squares Saturn in a chart is a time of reckoning and dealing with karma. And there may be issues revolving around just communicating and understanding and expressing actual mobility of the dog and being able to take the dog out and doing things with the dog. Pets in this chart are ruled by Venus. So what do we have? Jupiter's coming into a conjunction with Venus. So it does kind of suggest that at the very least, you'll have the dog possibly through at least, you know, the next couple of months. I am highly concerned about the 2nd half of May, beginning of June 2022, where there can definitely be hard conversations and decisions that you guys have to make, and also if there are other siblings in the chart, because it does kind of indicate that your son may be talking to other family members or other siblings regarding what it means to handle you know, a pet that's sick, and the responsibilities and the obligations of having a dog, and the health stuff, and also knowing when, if the time comes, to make a difficult decision to put a dog down. Now, I only say that because Saturn's at a 24, so it does deal with release and letting go and illness. Definitely watch end of May going into June in regards to the pet having further health issues. I'm also wondering the issues revolving around actually transportation and getting the dog to and from some kind of treatment, that I see that maybe coming up like February, March, especially when Venus is going to be enclosed by some malefic planets. Difficult decisions I am anticipating are going to have to be made at the end of March, beginning of April. That's like, well, you know, can we get the dog to and from the vet? Do we, you know, do we take them to regular appointments? You know, do we have somebody to help me get them there? Do we have to talk about or receive, you know, some even more difficult news? You know, I'm not a vet, but I would assume kidney disease is something that ultimately could be pretty serious for just the lifespan and the longevity of a pet. So I'm really sorry to hear that you guys are going through that. But the writing may be on the wall at the end of March, early April. That's like, well, we can do this. These are the results, but it would only prolong the inevitable, which could be further problems that you're actually seeing in June, unfortunately. I would say that the positive side of this is He's going to be okay, but Saturn and Mercury in a square natally is just, he's likely to talk to other family members, so I don't know if he has other siblings, but I think that that may be helpful. So Saturn being in the third house kind of makes me feel like that there can be aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings that can talk to him and help him through the process. I also know that there is a very good likelihood that there is going to be a new opportunity for another pet down the road. So God forbid, touch wood, something happens, and if you guys do have to make a difficult decision to put a dog down, or there's something that happens, there can be the possibility of another pet in June. Equally, you could wait, if this is something that's really, traumatic, that's understandable. There could be another opportunity in November, or even down the road, like when Jupiter goes into his 6th house, which would be the second half of 2023. He has a girlfriend. Okay, yeah. So it'd be other family members then. But I would say, if this one really hits hard and it's very difficult for him, there can definitely be another opportunity to get another dog or another pet in 2023. People have been talking a lot about the really sweet transits that are going to happen in Pisces. We're going to see like Jupiter and Venus come together with Neptune, which is very great, very whimsical, very romantic. Awesome transits. However, it's in his 4th house, which makes me feel like the possibility of having to talk about or discuss maybe having to put a dog down. And the 4th house, not a lot of people realize, are it's your burial, or it's burying things or burying people. So I'm looking at these transits coming up right around the end of April into May. That makes me feel like that can happen. But yeah, I mean, Mercury and Uranus, talking to friends, people reaching out, maybe posting stuff on social media that, it's affected him, and people will give him lots of feedback that way. Don't take it personally. He's got Mercury square Saturn. So number one, this is karmic. Number two, I think that it does not make it any easier. But anybody who's got planets around, 18 to 28 degrees of the fixed signs is unfortunately going to deal with a lot of challenging psychological, grief-related, letting go-related things next year. So he's got his Mars, his Mercury, and his Saturn all in those degrees. So he's definitely learning from the experience and learning how to share in written form. So encourage him to journal, or maybe post something about the dog, and do something in terms of a memorial for the dog, and other people can kind of join in and give him feedback and make him feel good without him having to talk to people one-on-one. So that might be more helpful. Very sorry to hear that. That's really tough. I had to put my dog down back in April, and it was really, really, really heartbreaking. So sending you guys lots of good vibes with navigating that. I've got Melanie Thompson on deck now. And that is November 6, 1984. And that was at 2:11 p.m. And that was at Queensland, Australia. Okay. Wanting to know if you see any good luck for the next couple of months in relationships. 2021 was really tough. November 6, 84. Okay. Let's take a look. Sorry to hear 2021 was so challenging. Melanie. All right, so you got Pisces rising. Neptune is coming into conjunction with your ascendant. Jupiter is going to come into conjunction with your ascendant. Let's see. So you're in your 37th year. So you're in a second house year as well. Relationships for you are going to be Mercury. So Also, this Pluto-Mercury-Venus conjunction is like, what's going on? What are my goals revolving around relationships? Are things going to get better? Am I going to meet somebody? Yes, the answer is yes. I do see this getting better for you. You need a really strong Mercury transit for somebody to show up. Your natal Mercury is in Scorpio. So the South Node just activated your Mercury, so it's bringing in new relationships, people who may be at a distance, people who might be across town or even across the world. Just a heads up. Jupiter will trine your Mercury this year, so that's good. And we're also going to see that Mercury and Jupiter will come together. So that's a time to watch. You may have a dream about somebody or have a feeling that you're going to meet someone. There can be a sense of you connecting with somebody from like past life relations. Very strong for you about mid-March when Mercury and Jupiter are coming together. So look for your intuition telling you, or maybe having a dream about somebody and then you see them. Like I see something like that going on for you, and that'll be about mid-March, clear all the way up until Mercury conjuncts your moon, and that'll be through mid-April. That's kind of like the best time. Now, on top of that, I'm watching Jupiter and Neptune. So your two ruling planets are coming into opposition with Juno, ruler of relationships and marriage, in your 7th. So the opposition is an opportunity. Maybe you meet somebody overseas. Maybe you meet somebody who transfers to your job. You meet them through work in some way. But they may speak another language, or they may have like dual citizenship somewhere. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Especially watching Jupiter come into a trine with your Mercury. You know, you may feel inclined to like meet and mix and mingle with people in other places, or maybe while traveling or while somebody's traveling in your area, you meet them. Your 7th house is 21 degrees, so tall, kind of Sagittarius-like. They may have Sagittarius kind of features, might have longer hair or a ponytail, might be really into analysis or anything relating to just like facts and information. You know, they might be into like data, things like that. Wow, yes, definitely explaining how I'm feeling. Yes, I met someone from the UK. Astrology is spooky, man. I mean, you know, meeting people in other places is a big theme in your chart for a period of time. You know, because you've got a Sag degree in your 7th, because you've got Venus in Sag, because Venus is in the 9th. I mean, you got to look for people in other places. So I'm wondering, in terms of whoever you've met or who you've connected with, what will materialize, you know? Because I think that there's going to be more opportunities. I'm especially interested to see what happens when like Mercury then comes into a trine with your Venus. It'll be like, well, would you come here? Maybe I'll come there type of stuff that's going to start happening when it's in Aries. The end of March going into April. Yeah, things are definitely going to get better. Back in August, he's black with dread 6'5". Yeah, see? Like literally, like your chart is very clear about your type. When you say back in August, like he's coming back from the UK to Australia, because, you know, with this chart, with the oppositions and the squares, he may have trouble getting back, or he may say, do you want to come to me? You know, so that's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. Even if it's not him, you are still going to bring in a partner who's going to have a lot of these features that I'm describing, just because it's in your chart. But also, I would say that you've got Mercury in your 9th in pretty close proximity to Uranus and Venus. So that seems to suggest something relating to like documents, travel, coming here, going there, meeting somebody who it becomes a bit of like a nightmare, flying back and forth and going places, and you start talking about settling into a relationship, maybe even for documents, right? You got Virgo in the 7th. Ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is at 29 degrees in the 9th. So it's like, you know, can we just make this easier? Can you just come here? Type of stuff. Intuitively, I feel like just with Jupiter in opposition to Juno, you're gonna meet another person. So he's not the only person that I'm seeing. You're gonna meet another person. You're gonna meet somebody who's got either a very strong Neptune, or they're gonna have some kind of like Pisces element in their chart as well. So that's because your Juno is at a 24. And you'll meet them either while they're traveling or perhaps where you're traveling, but there's something relating to maybe them being in the field of like publishing, writing, education, you know, something of that nature. But yeah, relationships are definitely going to get a whole lot easier. Just a heads up also, you know, I mean, there's about to be a full moon that's happening in your 5th house, so you might feel like wrapping something up or out. And then down the road next year, you're going to have a Mercury retrograde in your 7th. And somebody also of high interest is going to come back to you. And that's going to be right around the second half of September, beginning of October. So it'll be somebody who will be like, hey, can we try again? Or like, hey, like, how about, you know, I come and visit you? So if you're not wild about what's happening in March or April, watch what's happening the second half of September, because that's going to be some very big oppositions and squares to the 3rd. And there can be a lot of talking to somebody back and forth over a phone before you finally decide to make a jump and make a move, you know? Hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah, astrology is spooky, guys. It's so funny because it's like I can describe the kind of people who are going to come in, but usually when I have those conversations with people, they'll be like, oh my God, all of the girls or all of the guys that I dated, they all fit that description, because you fall in love with the same person, just different versions of them. Okay, so that was Melanie. Hopefully that's helpful for you. We've got Sang in the queue. Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see here. There we go. Okay, August. Why is this not showing up for me? SR, would love a career read for my son Brandon. 20th of August 1997. And we did call last reading on the readings, guys, so last call if you want to get those in. I'll be back the first week of January at some time. Liverpool. Oops. Help if I spell it right. Okay. So August 20th, 97. And you said a career reading. Aquarius rising. He started his personal training business 3 years ago. Loved it. COVID hit. Had to stop due to restrictions. Luckily, he had a full-time job to fall back on. He doesn't like his full-time job. Wants to quit by the end of 2022. Means the end of a job. Seems interested in being a personal trainer. Hoping any insight may steer him in the right direction. When would be the best time to start something new? He really lost his mojo. Okay. Well, we got to get that kid back in action, huh? All right. So let's look at this. Got it. How do I live my life? Constantly in a state of being a psychopath. All right, so I'm liking the fact that his rising is 8 degrees and his midheaven is Scorpio, because he's in the business of transformation. So helping people transform in the guise of physical, training, I think is still good, especially because he has Mars in the 10th house. Inevitably, at some point, he may drop this, I'm looking at the South Node coming into a conjunction with his Mars. He may try to do it for a little bit longer, or he may get back into it, but he may actually segue and make a bigger shift. When the South Node hits his Mars, he may actually release this and let this go anyway. You can encourage him to get back into it, but he may do it for maybe about another year. Now, I'm thinking more like stuff that can go the distance for him. Mars in Scorpio needs to feel like they're really passionate about what they're doing. Stuff that involves moving the body, working up a sweat, building momentum. I think at a 3, it's like, well, how can he make more residual income, right? And if he doesn't want to just focus on training all the time, does he want to record videos? Does he want to write meal or exercise plans and create a website for that, where maybe people who can't afford to train with him in person. He can, you know, assess their body fat, their height, their weight, their dietary restrictions, what their goals are, and create a whole set of videos and a plan and send it to them, right? These are things that would be better, that would help get him through. So if he were to work on this for the next year, it would bring him more residual income. I also say this because Pluto's dancing with his Neptune right now, which says if he's willing to do work, hard work, the next couple of months behind the scenes with something like this, it could really produce a nice chunk of change for him in the next year. He's going to have Jupiter and a bunch of planets go into his second house, so he could definitely make more money through film or through advertising with commercials and things that move. But it's not a bad job for him, to be really honest with you. It's just emotionally he needs to be in the right mindset. The other thing is that, like, this is a kid who has not had his Saturn return yet, so cut him a little bit of slack. You know, he's had Saturn and Pluto square his natal Saturn the last couple of years, which really kind of gets him into, like, negative, pessimistic thoughts when it comes to the work that he's doing. And something about Jupiter coming into conjunction with Saturn makes me feel like there is a new job opportunity or a new business idea that's going to be brewing. And he's going to start thinking about this, well, probably right around here, right around June of 2022. And I think that, you know, that would be a really great time when Mars and Saturn are around each other to just pay attention to his behavior, what he's working on launching, what he's committed to making happen. Mars and Saturn are kind of harder energies to work with. Like, he may struggle with feeling confident enough to put something like this out, but it's going to sextile Saturn and Jupiter in his first. So it's like really putting all of his knowledge and information to good use. I would wonder, what's the next step? You know, does he want to go into a new training program? He may be a trainer, but does he want to get licensed for a specific kind of training or a certain machine or a certain program? That would be really good for him. His Saturn's retrograde, so it's going to take him a little bit of time. Like, he may still, even in the midst of his Saturn return in a couple of years, still change what he wants to do. But if he were to work on this for the next year, he can make a decent amount of money with Saturn going into his second house, trining his Mars, and it could give him that year to figure out, well, what do I want to do, right? I know that I have built this platform. I have all of these different kind of routines and programs for different body types. I have all the diet stuff. I do a video call with somebody. I assess. I tell them exactly what to eat, exactly what to do. I check in with them. They lose weight. I make money. And he could do that for a year. And that would buy him some time. When the North Node is conjunct his Saturn in 2024, I'm getting the impression that that's probably when he's going to start thinking about wanting to do something a little bit more serious. So we need to at least let the North Node activate his Saturn and see that he's getting ready to come into his Saturn's return. So he needs a little bit more time. But he has to be passionate about what he's doing. He has to be in the business of transformation. He has to feel like he can work with people and help them transform in some way. Mars rules his 10th house, and Mars is intercepted in Aries, which is technically in his third. So I wonder, are there other certifications or licenses that he wants to get or needs to get? And I would start there. And encourage him to be doing some of the things that I discussed, especially working on it the next couple of months. He may actually benefit launching something like this sometime between March and June. So hopefully that's helpful. Hey Phoenix, how's it going? Let me know if you want your reading. I will get you in. We've got Elaine and Austin that are in the queue. And let me make sure I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, Elaine and Austin. And if you have a question, Phoenix, let me know. Just drop me your info. All right, well, thank you for joining us. It's nice to see you. Let me get Elaine in here. September 4th, 1995. 2:10 a.m. Winnipeg. Okay, so love. I'm feeling strongly to get back with an ex. We are long distance. I want commitment, and he has matured and grown. I want to visit him in Europe this year. What would be a good time to visit him and stay long? He's a Cap Sun Moon Gemini rising. Still am in the 8th. Money career. I've been unemployed since September 2020. Been trying to avoid. Wait, what does that say? I've been unemployed. Okay, trying different careers like gaming and streaming. Saturn became direct this year. I'm less shy in front of the camera though. Beginning to start my business as a virtual assistant, designer for spiritual leaders and communities. I'm a bit torn between doing my own thing or a graphic design job. I have too many ideas and projects. Transit Uranus, trine natal sun of Venus. I want to be able to sit. Okay. You are very welcome. Yeah, now the puppy is asleep and snoring. You can hear him. He's got his Venus on my sun, and it's right on my husband's ascendant. So whenever one of us are not around him or not in visual sight, he loses it. But as soon as you're sitting next to him or you pick him up, he's fine. So I think it's the astrology. Okay. Oh, okay, Phoenix. I'll get you into. Yeah, he's snoring. I'd rather him be snoring than screaming. So I guess my question for you, Elaine, is do you have more of a question about the relationship, seeing them, or more about the job stuff? Which one do you want me to focus on? Looking at your chart, September 4th, 95, Cancer rising. I mean, girl, you got a Venus retrograde in your 7th. Venus is conjunct Pluto, Mercury, and Neptune. You know, one thing I would say to you is you better make damn sure that this person is somebody that you can trust. It's very traditional Venus retrograde, you know. For Virgos, it's in the 5th house, which is about love and relationship and dating and dealing with heartbreak or making a decision. And then 2, you've got it in your 7th house because you're a Cancer rising. I would say if this person is still around and if they are still kicking and you're feeling super committed to them come March, okay, come back to me in March and let's talk about it, because I would be very careful about making any commitments to anybody while Venus is retrograde conjunct Pluto, especially with your natal Neptune involved. You know, it's whether or not you can actually trust, because Neptune in your whole sign is your 9th house, so it's literally about a foreigner coming back to you, but you want to make sure that this is going to work, you know? Okay, so question about your job. So you were doing a little bit more about, you were talking a little bit about doing the Twitch stuff, and then now you're doing like the virtual assistant stuff, and you want to do design, and it's more remote, trying to stick with something. I mean, here's what's wonderful about the Venus retrograde in your chart right now, is that the 7th house isn't just about marriage or relationship, romantic partners. 7th house Capricorn is who you work with, potential clients, people who you can connect to and solicit services to. So for a Virgo, it's great because it's 5 houses from your sun. So it's more like, what am I passionate about? How can I work my creative magic? What can I design? What can I offer people? I would say really figuring out your target audience, which it sounds like you have. Maybe approaching people, talking to them about packages that you have, or maybe offering to give them something free to kind of lure them in with the Venus-Pluto conjunction. That's like, hey, this is what I've done for other people. I would love to create this little thing for you. This is a gift from me to you. Here you go. Let me know if you like this. I can do more. Oh, I can make, I can make banners. I can do websites. I can create logos. Maybe like little like sweet enticing freebies would be great. I think that that's something that you could do. And I love Venus conjunct Neptune because Neptune's the ruler of your 10th house. Your time and your energy right now is better spent on reimagining the direction you're going with your creative design job rather than some guy in another country. Don't lose sight of what's going on right now. Venus is going to make several passes actually at your Neptune, which is helping you reach out to women or spiritual people or people who may benefit from what you have to offer, having consultations, talking to them about that stuff. And it's all of this setup for when Jupiter, ruler of your 6th house, is going to come into Pisces and it's going to conjunct Neptune. And like, man, you could be making some money here. Things could be quite busy for you mid-March through July. I mean, it would be very wonderful. I wonder if you have any skills or anything relating to like animation or video editing, because I'm looking at Neptune and Jupiter conjuncting your Saturn. So looking for people who maybe make videos or put videos online. Could add those free things to my portfolio to attract paying clients. Yeah, or you could do like little ditties where you could give somebody something and go, hey, if you like this like little logo that I made for you, check out what else I can do. Or maybe you post something saying that you're trying to bring in new clients, and you sit down and you talk to a group of people, or you invite them to a digital meeting or something, or you talk to them and offer a free consultation about anything revolving around creating a new aesthetic feel and design for everything. So, I mean, trust me, there's people out there. The spiritual world next year is going to be quite lucrative. There's going to be a lot of people doing this. There's going to be a lot of people who are setting up websites and other things because of the Jupiter-Neptune conjunction. So I would aim for people who are working with video, posting their pictures, things like that. And I think that it would be really wonderful for you to offer like mini 20, 30 minute consultation meetings with people where you're like, okay, what's your vibe? What do you want to create? What colors do you like? What services do you offer? Tell me about you. What are you interested in? What aesthetics are you into? And design ideas. And let me come up with like a little bit of a vision board thing, and I'll get back to you and let's see if you like what I come up with, right? So something wonderful like that can happen. I'm a digital media artist. Yeah, I have knowledge in 2D and 3D, but not an expert. You don't have to be an expert, but I think that if you have any background in being able to help create graphics or images that move, or anything that you can go and do kind of digital layovers and stuff. I was actually distracted by my side astrology biz a year ago. Shut it down for now. If you're going to launch something new astrologically related, wow, you've got Uranus in your 8th house. That could be lucrative too. If you're going to do anything like that, I would say just my 2 cents is, really consider, do you want to put it into other people or do you want to put it into yourself? Because Venus and Mars and Pluto are all going to sit on your natal Uranus. So there could be a relaunch that you could have in March. There could also be a relaunch that you can have when you have like a nice moon aspect with maybe, Venus in your 10th. You could try working for other people maybe for a couple of months and trying to create stuff. But I would say if you're feeling like you're doing a lot of output and it's not making you anything, consider going back and relaunching something somewhere around the end of April when you have Moon, Venus, Neptune, Jupiter in your 10th, because it's all going to sextile your natal Uranus. You could do that kind of work if you want. You know that, right? Because you've got Uranus in your 9th. So it makes me wonder, how far along are you in the program, or how far along are you with your astrology business? Are you in a situation where, you feel like you need a mentor, or you need further teaching or education or training? Because I think of Uranus 9 houses away from your sun as a Virgo, if that makes sense. And Jupiter is going to come in conjunction with your Neptune. So you may go through an official program or something to help you feel like, okay, I've got this person I trained with. This is what I've done. Now I'm able to kind of revamp and re-strategize where I'm going. It's a difficult transit because you don't just have Neptune conjunct your natal Saturn at the moment. You also have it conjunct your midheaven. So your intuition is where you're going to go. And as Jupiter comes into a conjunction, I could see where you could be of service to people who are in the spiritual industry, especially right around February, March, April, But that's only until you get to a point where you're about April, May, and you have to ask yourself, do you want to do this for other people or do you want to do this for yourself? Right? And that'll also be Saturn in your 8th, square Pluto in your 5th. So 5th house is yours, 8th house is other people's. So it's like, well, do I feel like I'm making enough money doing that? I don't know. You've got Pisces midheaven, 22 degrees, so it's a Capricorn degree. I think inevitably, especially when Saturn comes into a conjunction with your 10th house, it has to be your business. So it will be your business. Hi, this is my design business. Hi, this is my astrology business. It's not going to be working for other people so much. It'll be having clients that come to see you. And you could do both, definitely, because Saturn does sextile Neptune. You could focus more on building, creating for other people, and then you'll get to a point where you're like, you know what, actually, I've been building so much for other people, and like I know how this works and what's going to sell and what looks good. I'm going to build out my own thing. Should I just get my own money? Well, it's good to go. Yellow Rose. I need to go to show tourism mode. Sam, I would wait. You need to wait until the second half of January. North Node in Libra is in your 5th house, and you have to take into consideration that Mars, which is technically by whole sign standards, Mars is your 10th house ruler, right? Because you're a Cancer rising. So if you've got Mars and the North Node conjunct, it's more about your own business, your own intuitive business, because that would be in your 4th house. So it's more about you rather than other people. North Node in Libra, though, I mean, yeah, learning how to partner with other people, but this is designing and helping other people. And I think maybe that's the first sequence of events that happens before you start doing it for yourself. Also notice you have Neptune square the nodes, and Neptune is the ruler of your 10th house. So to me, for me, that's kind of saying, you know, there's a lot of dealing with other people before you figure out what you want. There's a lot of going through the motions and dating other people and people coming back and telling you what they want before you realize what you want. There's a lot of having clients that come to you and talk to you about what they want to design and what they envision before you go, this is my vision. So don't discredit dating and or design clients, because there's a lot of interacting with people to help you better figure out what you know, right? And what you want and what ultimately your goals are going to be for marriage or business partnership or your own personal business. At first, it's kind of challenging the Neptune square the nodes. It's reinforcing the need to go deeper into your intuition and feel that out with what feels good and trusting yourself. But 2, also, it sextiles your natal Saturn. So that's very helpful. You've got mutual reception between Saturn and Neptune. I see that Seesaw working on my business, but may not have been helping other people as much until I can find that real balance. It's been hard because you've also got Pluto that's, you know, squaring the nodes right now. So really what it's saying is that the relationship with other people right now must transform. There needs to be better boundaries. There needs to be more stability. It needs to feel more solid, right? Pluto in a square to your nodes. Go and look into some Jeffrey Wolf Green stuff and his work with Pluto in the nodes, because remember that squares are the energy of Mars. When you experience a square is going to force you to act. So Pluto in a square very tightly to your nodes over the next 3 months is like, you won't go back and forth with certain clients anymore. You won't go back and forth with certain romantic partners anymore. You won't go back and forth with work anymore, because you're going to be like, it needs to be in balance. If I'm going to work for you, you need to pay me my worth. If we're going to be together, you need to change. You need to get real. You know, Pluto is about truth. So there's a lot of truth coming out over the next 3 or 4 months with Pluto in a square to your nodes. And Pluto rules your 5th house, which means it's trying to get you to go deeper into love and romance and creativity. And it will kill off or destroy any potential 7th house partnerships, professional partnerships, relationships, if it's not going to facilitate that. And Pluto's in a square to your Mars. So it's definitely relationships that aren't going to lead to true love or children, and potential working partnerships or clients that aren't going to let you really have full creative control, right? Very complex square. Once Pluto's out of a square with that and it's fully moved into, going into Aquarius, it's going to get a whole lot easier for you. But you're in that pretty intensely for the next couple months, to be honest with you. I feel like hiring others to see if I want to work with them as they pay me. Feels so cap. You could do that, you know? You could do that. Or being in a situation where, you know, being able to partner with other people and feeling it out. I mean, you do need to work with other people to get a sense of what works best for you, but not getting lost in other people's confusion. That's where Neptune is going to really kind of screw you with the square to the nodes, as is Uranus. Neptune, Uranus is challenging with these Pluto transits. But, you know, cardinal squares, they get things done. And when you have planets square the nodes, especially in cardinal signs, there's a lot of busyness always. So you could definitely have a lot of clients with a chart like this, for sure. But you need to be in a mindset of being able to do creative work. That's all. Hopefully that's helpful. Let me know how those squares go. And be open to learning new techniques and stuff with editing and stuff with visuals or even videos. I think that would be wonderful as Jupiter comes into conjunction with your Saturn. And I always tell people who are like, I'm an astrologer, I want to practice astrology. I'm like, get through your Saturn return first and get back to me. And let me know if you still want to be an astrologer, because it is very challenging to really be in the trenches and to be talking to people regularly and doing it. You know, if it's something that you love, keep on keeping on. Certainly I had I have Saturn in Capricorn, and I also have Neptune and Uranus conjunct. And I remember going through my Saturn return being like, fuck, do I really want to do this? And it ended up manifesting as me, you know, taking a couple of years off to just really focus on buckling down and getting serious about my programs and seeing clients. And then when I got out of my Saturn return, I was like, wow, I'm still in love with astrology. I'm going to keep doing it. And I feel like I got better. So you definitely have the chops. You need to have a very strong Uranus placement to make it happen. And you certainly do have that. So I'm very interested to see what you do. Very analytical. I feel like you would do very well writing reports, or you would do very well running a blog or something social media related to these things. Like you're good at it. You're very capable of being able to do that. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's see, who else do we have here? We have Austin Gray. Austin, thank you for being so patient. And also, I did not forget about you, Phoenix. Don't worry, I've got you too. Don't worry. Let me know how it goes. Thanks for joining me, Elaine. All right, Austin, let's plug in your info. 8587. You can hear him snoring. 11:13 p.m. And that was in Tacoma. Question about work and healing. Hi, Austin. What is your question? Let me know. You're very welcome. Have a happy new year. So let me know your question, Austin. And then Phoenix, I got you next. Just looking at your comments. Resigned recently. Job hunt. Let's see if I can find your question somewhere in here. Sorry, I'm having to scroll back a little bit. Give me just a second. Here we go. Working in a super toxic work environment, feeling kind of lost and stuck, looking for another work, honestly having a hard time staying in a traditional workforce, not really ready to be self-employed. Okay. Wowzers. All right, so you are a Aries rising, 29 degrees. Venus is going retrograde in your 10th, so definitely a lot of like reevaluating. Do I like where I'm working? Do I enjoy it? Does it work for me? Does it not? Toxic work environment, how appropriate is that to be coming up while your 6th house work environment Lord Mercury is conjunct Pluto? It's like literal. And Venus is going back and forth like, well, can I find something else? Can I find someone else? Here's what I like about your chart. Venus is going to station direct pretty much on your midheaven. I've invested a ton in education, a lot of experience, not really driving with how I want to live my life. A lot of trauma. I just really want to enjoy my life, but my work is toxic. Okay, so Venus retrograde in the 10th, definitely a good time to reevaluate. I would recommend sitting with a lot of this because all of the planets at the top part of your chart are squaring your ascendant and your descendant. Saturn rules your 10th house. You are very knowledgeable. Jupiter on your ascendant. And Pluto is eventually going to come into an opposition with your natal Mercury. So it is a good idea for you to get out. And I feel inclined to tell you that there is a possibility by the time Mars goes into Capricorn and it aligns, you know, you may try to get out of this emotionally or psychologically in February. That's an option. But by the time Mars aligns with Pluto and opposes your Mercury, I would say be careful what you're asking for because there can be some events that play out either psychologically, emotionally, at home with family that may trigger events that make you go, I can't be at work, I gotta go. And like, I don't say this lightly. Having Pluto come into an opposition with your Mercury can bring some very heavy thoughts, intense issues with trauma, mental stress. It rules your 6th house of health and coworkers. It also rules Gemini, which is your 2nd house of money and resources. Some would say 3rd, so mental stuff. So if you're saying that you have a lot of trauma, I would say the biggest thing with a Pluto transit is making sure that you have a support line for any of that trauma. Very important. Look into Pluto transit your natal Mercury for more information. This is going to create what we call a grand fixed cross. So I would say if something's a problem now, make it bigger, because if you stay with this, it's only going to get worse. And I have concerns that it's really going to start to wear on your mental health and either make you sick or get you to the point where you feel like you have to stay home and recover. So I have seen some clients when Mercury opposes Pluto that they'll go through a transit or a period of going and talking to a therapist, working with a therapist, realizing that all of this stress and anxiety is really, you know, giving them way too much to deal with. And some of them get put on like health leave for a period of time. I'm not saying you should, but Mercury does rule your 6th house. If you delay really getting these emotions out and talking to people about this, whether it's past trauma or from your employer, you're running the risk of having some health problems because Mercury rules your 6th house of health. Stomach, digestional issues, you know, issues relating to being able to care for yourself. I would take that pretty seriously because a period of time of having that trauma that hasn't been dealt with will finally pop once Pluto makes the opposition. So really paying attention to what's coming up at the end of February is what I would recommend. On the flip side, though, like I said, you know, Venus is going to be stationing direct on your midheaven. So that's also giving you the opportunity to go, well, you know, I need to go to my employer, 7th house Lord, or go to my partner and say, hey, I need help. So whether this is a romantic partner or the people that you're working for and being like, this isn't working, I would do that now. Yeah, having a week off is not, it'll help, but this is only going to build in intensity until you get to the beginning of March. And then it's going to pop. And it makes me wonder if it's going to pop in a sense of you being like, that's it, I'm done. You know what I'm saying? So there's something about the end of February that makes me feel like you could actually sever something and go, you know what, it's not worth risking my health over anymore. I can't do this anymore. And then it cuts. That's what's very likely to happen. I would say that, you know, making sure that you have a really good team, whether it's a doctor or a therapist or somebody who's helping you work with the trauma to work this out. Certainly a lot of it is related to either your home life, your inner child, something relating to stress that you don't let out. You know, Cancer in the 4th and Capricorn in the 10th puts on a good face. So it's like, yeah, everything's fine. I'm at work, everything's good. And then you go home and you realize you're having panic attacks and you can't breathe and you can't sleep and you can't eat, right? So there's a lot of that coming up for you as well. Interviewing is probably your best bet. I feel like the fact that Venus is, you know, going to be conjuncture midheaven is a really great indication from about mid-January through the end of February that you can get a new job. I would also say still double down and talk to either HR or people at work about what's going on with you emotionally, or like go the route of seeing somebody therapy-wise or health-wise who may be able to give you a leave of absence or give you a recommendation for a health leave of absence. But it's going to be a while. It's going to be until March, you know? So a week helps, but we're looking at 3 months. And even in the midst of that, you're still going to have these transits. So understand that just switching jobs doesn't always do it. Pluto in your chart, it rules your 8th house, which means a complete transformation of the way that you look at work and what it means to work and what a healthier kind of, you know, schedule is going to look like. But when we see a positive aspect between Saturn and I would say Venus is when you're likely to possibly get something new. You know, it could be mid-January. Equally, it can be about mid-March. Those are the 2 times that I would look for that. And I feel like since Saturn rules your 10th house, a Venus retrograde in this part of your chart, very similar to the end of 2013 going into the new year of 2014. I would reflect on that time and I wonder, did you go through something else then? This is a clearing out. Retrogrades clear out. So we haven't had that retrograde in what, 8 years, you know, maybe even longer. So it's been a long time coming. So it's like now it's clearing the slate because it's conjunct Pluto and it's making you realize you can't partner with people who don't have your back or who don't have your best interest at heart. If they're overworking you, underpaying you, or if they're not hearing you out, then stuff needs to change. I would really recommend with a chart like this, because it is such a complex square that you have with Pluto, you would definitely be a candidate for somebody who would really benefit from a reading. Like sitting down and talking to somebody and getting kind of a blow by blow and looking at your transits and also your solar return to have a better idea of how things are going to happen, you know? Hopefully that's helpful. And definitely look into Pluto in opposition to your Mercury. I mean, if you are married, the Pluto square your Mercury also can be bringing up all kinds of stuff pertaining to that as well. And if you are married, it's, oh, okay. So yeah, so you're divorced. Okay. Yeah, I would say to you, this is a great opportunity to start something new. There is something new coming, especially as Jupiter begins to square Saturn. You're going to realize that going and either working for another institution or you going and doing some kind of work that's going to get you into a new, even a new school would be much better for you, you know. Let me know, circle back and let us know what happens. We've got Phoenix. Phoenix, thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Let's pull up your info. $115.73. And that is at 12:40 a.m. And what city was that in, Phoenix? Let me know. I don't remember what city it was, so you have to let me know. I'm going to read your Change jobs, want to know about the new areas away from San Francisco. Working in the East Bay from San Francisco, got 3 jobs after I left a very stressful place in SF. I resigned on the 10th. Everyone was shocked. Did a quick job hunt. Got lots of offers. They told me I'm not going to get a job, but I did because I'm a Capricorn. Okay. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you. Okay, so the question being about working in another city. If I understand that correctly. Is that what you're asking me? New areas away from San Francisco. I mean, you know, this is Scorpio risings, man. Saturn in your 4th house. And Saturn is leaving your sun. Sun rules your career. Pluto is conjunct your sun right now. And I feel like when Venus, Pluto come into conjunction like they have been, it's like, yeah, probably a number of offers have appeared. And they're all potentially pretty great offers. You may be looking at moving places or being places that may be costly though, you know? That's one thing that I would say. Thanks, Kirsten. Have a good night. I would have to tell you that I do get the impression that moving is on the horizon because there will be a retrograde that will be happening the second half of January, a Mercury retrograde that will drop into Capricorn, and you might be considering moving the end of January, beginning of February. You know, Pluto's finally leaving that conjunction with your sun. So that's the other thing is like all the sweetness is going to show up probably when Venus and Mars are conjunct your sun, like making more money and living in another city sometime between mid-February and March. So I definitely think that that's been a long time coming. It really depends on where you want to go. You know, the other thing is that the North Node is conjunct your moon here next year. And the moon is about partnerships, building some kind of partnership. It's a North Node trine your sun, so it's also about partnerships, professional or romantic. And the moon rules further away moves or moving to a farther away city. So to me, it looks like it's not a matter of if you're going to get a job. It's like, well, what city do you want to be in? You know, can you work remotely? Do you have the opportunity to move where you want to move? What's the deal with that? Saturn square Uranus all year has been really big in this chart because it's been Saturn in your 4th house of home and Uranus in your 7th house of partnership. So right around Christmas was like that bending and breaking. That's just like, okay, I'm separating with some kind of partnership. I'm aligning with somebody new. So if you quit your job, great. It tells me that you may have another job, you may move and partner with somebody. And if you are somebody who's single, you can have some huge changes in your love life too, because as a result of moving or at least being in another area or working in another area, you can get pretty intensely connected to another person, you know? Hey, Ariel, I just saw you. I will add you on. You will be my last person. Personally, Phoenix, I think it's like great because, you know, Pluto and Venus and Mercury on your sun is all about your goals. And if we look at even what's going on like today, this conjunction that's happening on your sun, it's pretty prominent. It's like, well, where do you want to live? How do you want to feel? You know, you pick the city. Pick the city that's going to be the one that you're most drawn to. I wouldn't sign a lease or move or anything like that till at least the second half of January, though. I would give it at least that long. But I feel like by March, you're going to be like, wow, things are actually really moving in my favor. This is great. I'm really enjoying this. Mars, Venus, Pluto, all on your Jupiter and on your sun. It's going to bring you more money, and it's also going to give you a much more comfortable space to live. Hopefully that was helpful for you. Very exciting. Big moves for Capricorns, man. Emotionally and literally, financially, business-wise. All right, Ariel, 10/23/1990. And and that was in Huntington, New York, 3:56 a.m. All right, return customer, struggling with career change, recently met a career coach for me. My personality type, interior design came up, which I don't hate, but something also came up with fitness training, which I considered secretly. I love Pilates and currently being considered for a teacher training program, but the coach was not hip to the idea and it might involve hidden costs. Can you give me some insight? All right, let's take a look. 10/23/90. Okay, so this gives you a Virgo rising, sun in Libra, and moon in Sag. Let me know if this looks correct for you. Thank you, Phoenix. Okay, so when it comes to work and career, it's interesting because you got Virgo in your, if you've got Gemini as your midheaven. So you're diverse. You can do more than one thing. You can go back and forth, communicating, conversing, sharing ideas. That's also very important when it comes to work. Lots of Virgo risings have had some issues with this from what I've seen recently. And a lot of that's because you had a Venus retrograde last year in your 10th house. Guess what? There's going to be a Mars retrograde there the second half. So I would say keep your options open, maybe balance two things. So that way come the end of 2022, if you want to pivot from one thing to another, you can, because you're going to experience still a Mars retrograde. So there's a transformation of your career, the end of 2022 going into the beginning of 2023. Don't jump all in right now. 2, going into something fitness or design related is both very positive for this chart because you are going to have Jupiter in Pisces going into your 6th house. It's a feminine sign, so it's going to be great for designing, painting, picking out wallpaper, all of that stuff, images, photos of houses and spaces. You are very design savvy. I don't know if you're aware of that because you have that Mercury, Sun, Venus in the 2nd. Libra is very good with aesthetics and what is beautiful or attractive. But also the 2nd house is the body. So it's like, I could go either way. Mars in Gemini conjunct your midheaven makes me feel like moving, being diverse, moving the body, working up a sweat, teaching, educating, definitely can be super positive for this chart. Like I would say maybe it's a matter of considering the Pilates stuff, but just going a different direction. And watching Jupiter come into a square with your Mars is going to make you even more kind of confused. Unfortunately, as much as I want to be like, it's going to be easy, it's not. I would wait until, well, right now Jupiter's trying your Mercury. So what feels, it was the coach's suggestion to do 2 jobs at once. I'm leaving fashion design. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, personally, I feel like you could do both. Worst case scenario, with Jupiter and all these planets going into your 6th house, you're going to learn something new. And not only that, you're going to be more physically active and you're going to feel better. So I would say, have you taken a couple Pilates classes? Have you tried the reformers? Have you tried different studios? Have you tried different techniques to see if you like it and if you like having a feel for it? Like, do you? Like you are really great with how things should look and how things should be put together. So it's not limited to just design. It could also be, well, does their body look proportionate? Are you talking to people about how they want to perfect something or get rid of a dimple or whatever? A lot of people who go to Pilates, I'm not saying everybody, but from my experience, a lot of people who go to Pilates are when they're not getting the results that they want from other types of fitness. And they want to really be able to tone and perfect their body. Okay, cool. So it's your hobby. Great. So you're a Libra. I'm a Libra rising, 0 degrees. So I'll tell you what happens with your hobbies for the next year because Saturn's 5 houses from your sun. Your hobby can very much become your hustle, which can become your full-time job. So if it's already a hobby, I would say continue on. Consider at least doing the certification and going through the process of trying to see if you can do that. At the very least, you're going to get super healthy. You're going to feel better. You're going to really like your schedule next year and you're going to enjoy it. At the very most, it may be something that ends up being very lucrative. You may not really see it being super lucrative until you do some restructuring of what you're doing for work next year. The benefit of 2022 going into 2023 also is that Jupiter will be in Aries. So it's great for people who are self-employed, great for people in the fitness industry, great if you want to be able to have your own business and work with clients one-on-one and go to them or have them come to you. Like, I think it's great. However, your midheaven is at an 18, which does deal with clients. You're going to have clients regardless. There is a way that I feel like it is possible for you to do the Pilates stuff, and that it may actually ultimately build into you going, well, I'd want to invest in houses, I want to flip houses, I want to do real estate, I want to do more of that, and you could still go in that direction. I would not encourage you to go all in financially with doing a crazy program either way. If you're going to do a Pilates program, find something that's affordable and find something you can do over a period of time. Maybe you just do your first training, your mat training, see how you feel about it before you go on to the other stuff. And on the flip side with the interior design, that as well, I would only do that to a certain extent, but I wouldn't like go and do a several year stint at a design college. You know what I'm saying? Like, try both, see what sticks. What I know is that Saturn is going to still be trining your sun next year. So that's going to be really, your midheaven and your Mars next year. So you're changing your career either way. Don't get frustrated in April when you really have to stay the course. And personally, I just kind of get the impression that you're actually going to do better, even if you have a design perspective, doing the Pilates work. Because it's not going to feel like work for you. You're going to feel like you can work and you can work out, and you're not going to feel like it's like a burden, if that makes sense, you know? Hopefully that is helpful for you. You'll have to come back and let me know. Let me know what you'll ultimately end up doing. Part of me wonders if you're gonna do something like possibly doing Pilates and then getting into like clothing and designing clothes for Pilates, or like workout fabrics or materials. Like, you might do that because the second house is about what feels good. So you might do something of that nature. Yeah, that would be wonderful. I'd love to see you do like a work study. Yeah, no, and that's the thing, is that you will always kind of flip-flop because you have Mars and Gemini. It's very diverse, but also because Gemini is your midheaven, there is a sense of you know, needing to do two things, but communicating a lot with people. The Saturn trine this next year is going to be great for your Sun and for your Venus, you know? And probably by the time Saturn gets into Pisces, which will be in 2023, and it trines your Mercury, you will set on something and you'll stay. No, but you could take your fashion and stuff and pay it forward and go more in the direction of doing, you know, designing stuff for fitness or designing fitness studios. You never know. You know, you might do it for a period of time and then you're like, I want to design a gym, or I want to design clothing. You know, Saturn in 2023 will help you kind of get more serious about some of that stuff. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, I do natal readings. I do live Zoom readings. So I do full hour or half hour, depending on what you need. Looks like Miss Romero slid in there. Okay, so that's the last one, guys. I'm not doing any more after this. Let me pull this up really quick. Let me know how that goes with the whole Pilates thing. I'm interested to see what pans out for you. 9/19/81. And that was at 4:30 a.m. Durango. So I'm taking care of my family, carry their worries, sister and mom. Can you tell me if things will change? Last we spoke, we had a few transitions in the family, so I want to know more. No, you're okay. No worries. Wow. Well, I mean, Leo risings, man, definitely kind of getting bombarded because, you know, the nodal changes in your fourth house, part of Saturn, you know, and the square that you're experiencing is realizing that you can't juggle everything. So when it comes to like family responsibilities and obligations, my, oh my, I mean, the last couple of months have been very intense, especially December. I feel like the South Node coming into conjunction with Uranus is just a heads up to be prepared that mid-February on, you're going to see some situations where, you know, you're going to not cut ties with family, but there's going to be conflict because, you know, Uranus rules your 7th house with a parent revolving around whether or not you can help take care of the house, cook meals, pay for things, give them money. It's just, it is what it is. It's kind of being designed that way. So mid-February through mid-April, you're going to see this theme of like, yeah, I love you, but I can't show up and do all these things for you. The beautiful thing is that Saturn and Mars and all these planets in Aquarius will trine your 3rd house. So it makes me feel like there's a way to mend relationships with siblings, cousins, or uncles, or aunts, and be like, hey, I need your help. Can you help me? You may also have help from some of your family members' spouses. Communication is king. So learning to be like, hey, can you help me with this? Can you pick up mom? Can you, do the housekeeping? Can you help them get here or get there? That, I'm not going to say you have to, but you benefit by being more like that. Where there's squares, we want to look for trines. So all the trines happening to your 3rd house is communicating with them and talking to them about the day-to-day life and how you can get more assistance. I find it interesting that the nodes are going to square Saturn and Mars and a bunch of planets in your 7th house, which is really reiterating the need to go deeper into partnerships and relationships with other people. And people who aren't supporting you and balancing and working with you, you're just going to notice there's a lot of friction and you have to cut people off, even if it's family. I think that is inevitable. We talked a little bit about the transitions. Yes, I think more will come around the eclipses. So the other thing I would say is that once these eclipses start happening in the spring next year of Taurus and Scorpio, be prepared. So we've got one eclipse that's going to be around April 30th, and that's a new moon eclipse. And the big one that's going to impact your chart is going to be this one. This will be an eclipse around May 15th, 2022, and it'll be at 25 degrees of Taurus, 25 degrees of Scorpio. That's the one that's going to be a doozy. So mark that on the calendar. That whole week is going to be kind of like a breaking point. Because an eclipse, a full moon eclipse, is like a wrapping up of something that's been going on for a while. Think of what's been really building since about November of this year. An eclipse on your midheaven is about responsibility, changes of fate in terms of where you're going with your career, your responsibilities. The North Node is up there, so it's saying it's about work, responsibilities, what you're doing, kind of being a powerhouse for yourself. And it's going to oppose your Uranus in the 4th house. Maybe you change jobs. Maybe you move. Maybe you have some squabbles with a parent. These are some things that may materialize. On the flip side, that's going to trine your sun, which is your chart ruler. So it's going to make you feel good. It's like, no, I can't be taking care of you. I got to work for myself. I got to save some of my own money. I got to stick up for myself. But it's going to oppose Uranus and square Saturn. So it's inevitable. You will have issues with family. I promise you that. I remember when I have natal Uranus in my 4th house. And I remember when Saturn went through my 7th house. Very similar to what you've got going on. Just a lot of issues with family. A lot of just like, well, I'm not living here anymore. See you later. Or a lot of having conflicts sometimes in relationships and having to cut certain relationships off. So in your case, I would just watch, because there is a possibility in the next year or two that you're going to have a romantic partner in your life who's going to be like, you don't need to deal with this. Like, I'll help you. How can I help you? Or how can I support you? Or, let me step in so you don't have to do everything. Or they may be giving you insight and kind of being like, hey, this is not healthy, right? Or a partner shows up in a way where you really want to nurture the relationship or work on a relationship that your family may feel like that they are taking you away from them. Classic Saturn square Uranus, So Saturn is in your chart the ruler of your 6th. So it's more like You know, having conflict revolving around a partnership and having to take care of a family member, or sorry, I can't go on a date tonight because I got to go and make dinner for my mom, and a partner being like, really? She can't do it herself? These are the kinds of things that are going to start happening. And it can feel like friction with partners, but at the same time, it's like that person's coming in to say, hey, you're only going to be stuck in this as long as you choose to be stuck in this, you know? And inevitably at some point, you are also coming into your Uranus opposition. So Uranus, when it moves deeper into Taurus, it's going to oppose your natal Uranus with Jupiter, which means it's really wanting to pull you out of this feeling of having to be super stuck and taking care of your family, going your own way, focusing on having fun, focusing on a business, focusing on the kids that you may have that you want to take care of, maybe doing some kind of business with your kids, focusing more on your immediate family and not, you know, your siblings or, you know, your mom and stuff. I like Saturn in your 7th though. I feel like if you can't communicate well with your mom, you need to communicate better with a sibling. If you can't communicate well with a sibling, you might be better talking to their spouses. That may be the way through it. And it's all an air sign. So communicate. Come up with a schedule, you know, call them, have a connected digital schedule, write them emails, things like that. So it's all clear and on paper when it comes to timing. It's really going to help you. But yeah, you're getting hit all over. You know, you got Saturn square Uranus, Saturn square transit Uranus, Saturn on your descendant. You also would be one of those people who would really benefit from a reading. Maybe give it to like February, March, see how that starts to pan out. And if you really need some assistance, let me know. But yeah, Uranus in the 4th house usually does create a bit of a disruptive mother. So just a heads up, you know, she'll create a lot of problems if you have a romantic partner around over the next 2 years, and can create quite a bit of strife in your romantic life, you know, and you'll have a partner going, I can't deal with your crazy mom. This is too much for me. So that's what happened for me, by the way, when Saturn went through my 7th house. I definitely had a mom that tried to run somebody off and did several times. And then finally they were like, hi, what's going on with your mom? And it made me realize that my mom was the problem. So, oh, cool, you're on my schedule. Awesome. So we'll come up with a plan, and it'll be good because my sessions, we record it. So I record it and then give it to you. So that way you can listen back to it and know what's going to happen at certain times. So I look forward to talking to you about that because, yeah, it's going to be super, super helpful. You got a lot of transits going on. All right, guys. Well, that is it for me for the evening. It was nice getting a chance to be here. Hopefully this was helpful, even if you were just listening. A lot of people really benefit from listening to these and also give you more insight as to what my reading style is like. Don't forget to check out my live show I'm doing on New Year's Day. It's going to be 11 a.m. Pacific time. I'm going to talk about all the important transits of 2022, what I see coming. I'm also going to talk to you guys about the year ahead spread that I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do a tarot spread where we're going to look at what the cards have to say for 2022. We're going to talk about the numerology for 2022 and how it's going to affect some of the signs. And yeah, I've got some other interesting things that I'm going to put out there. So it'll probably be a couple hours long that we'll stream. So join me for New Year's Day. You want to book a session with me? I've got some openings in the new year in February. Check out my website below at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. You can get a session with me. We can chat. I have full or half-hour sessions available. It's a combination of tarot, astrology, and what I see intuitively. Thank you for joining me, and I will be back soon in a couple of days. If you guys haven't already checked out my astro weather video or my Jupiter and Pisces video, please do. Otherwise, I'll see you very soon, and have a happy New Year's. Take care.